Good evening, everybody. How are we doing? Have you got your courgette at the ready? We are speaking into a courgette this evening in place of our microphone, which we do not yet have. Are we all ready for a live presidential debate? Well, it's not here. Someone just said to me, Metrix, what are you doing? Your media clashing with the debate. You'll lose numbers. I said, they'll lose numbers. Yeah, we were here first. We're on every day. Why couldn't they work around us? True Crime Metrics. You know, if they want to risk clashing with me, you know, we could tip the election any way we want at Metrics. You know, so I'm not worried. I'm not worried. Look, we've got a full chat room here. We're all going to catch the presidential debate on the replay, like any normal European person would do. Yeah. Would I stay up if I wasn't working for the debate? Maybe. I have done before. It is fun. But anyway, we're here because we're scheduling. And you know what? It's funny because all the other YouTubers that we usually clash with, you know, people in the States, people in other parts of North America, they've all cancelled their streams tonight because of the debate, right? So all of those hungry true crime people looking for a place to be haven't got anywhere. They're all going to have to come to Metrix. I think we're going to double the numbers tonight because of the debate. Think positive. Silver lining, silver cloud. Thank you very much. Anyway, today, guys, we did the whole thing of Georgia Kappelman's closing argument in the Charlie Adelson first-degree murder trial 2023 yesterday. So it seems only fair that we give some time to Mr. Daniel Rashbaum, little monkey boy Muffinhead himself, who's going to tell us all about how the state has doubt. You heard it. Oh, we're just going to... I hope you're all taking notes. I've got a notepad and a pen right here because I think we're going to come up with about 35 new T-shirt ideas, slogans-wise. I mean, the guy is a dispensing machine of bullshit slogans that are easy to remember, right? That we all kind of love because he says them with such blind conviction. We'll come back to that. Anyway, what are we doing? Welcome everybody in the chat. Cassandra Perez, nice to see you. Leah, Kayla, Linda, fantastic. Lego person, back again, huh? Great to see you. Annie G. Mona Lisa AZ, Clarissa H, good to see you. Sky Troop, all the way from Everett, like Judge Everett. That's kind of funny. Yeah, we're going to see a little bit of Judge Everett today. Where's our video player machine? Let's go. What are we doing? Desktop? Desktop? How about this? Yeah.
Rashbaum, you may give the defense's closing.
Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court. Good morning. Good morning. As we discussed in jury selection, Charles Adelson is presumed to be innocent. To overcome that presumption of innocence, the state has the heavy burden of proving beyond a reasonable doubt that Charlie committed the crime that they say he committed. We did not have to present any evidence whatsoever. That's how our system works. We did not need to prove his innocence.
I love how he acts like he's doing the state a favor. We didn't have to do anything. We could have just sat here, sniffing our fingers and passing racist jokes to one another.
As you go through the trial, you were told that you needed to evaluate the evidence through a lens of innocence. a presumption of innocence. Now, I think we did prove his innocence in this trial, but that isn't the standard. That's not what you go back there and deliberate. What you see in this trial is a mountain of reasonable doubt that arises from the evidence itself, from the conflict in the evidence, and from the lack of evidence.
Lack of evidence? Where have you been for the past week, man? There's been the evidence has been voluminous, right, Bob from accounting? Man, the lack of evidence. Oh, okay. Well, just because you say it doesn't make it true.
The state's first question to Mr. Adelson when he was on the stand was something called Occam's razor.
Yeah, which these guys in Tallahassee have never heard of because they're all dumb hicks. It's the most, what did somebody tell me today? It's the most educated city in Florida, right? It's where all the education is in Florida. This is something called Occam's razor.
Their first question was referring to their belief that the simple answer.
Don't you just love the way Judge Everett sits up there like an orangutan? He's like an orangutan. Fantastic, just majestic, you know? If ever there was a guy who looked at home in a big chair, leather-bound chair, how soft do you think that leather is? Very soft, I'd say.
Is the preferred answer. You might recall them asking that question. The very first question they asked Ms. Charlie. Occam's razor, that proposition that the simple answer is the preferred answer, is the exact opposite of what our criminal justice system is about. See, Occam's razor is a guess.
Oh, a guess? Oh, that sounds really unreliable. The state is just guessing it was him. They put a load of names in a hat, pulled one out at random. It said Charlie Adelson, and they made their case.
We don't guess in this country. We don't assume people to be guilty. We presume them to be innocent. And sometimes the simple answer is the wrong answer. Sometimes things aren't so simple. And that's what we have in this case.
You know, when I watch Daniel Rashbaum, I try to give him some benefit of the doubt, and I look for things, you know, like Charlie Adelson looks for things to do to Katie. She doesn't have to ask him for shit. He's always the one saying, oh, who's got a birthday coming up? Here's $300 for Ethan's birthday. No, I look for things with Daniel Rashbaum. I look for things that I like, you know, and that little bit of pacing there. Did I like that? Did I like that? Let me look at it again.
We don't guess in this country. We don't assume people to be guilty.
I kind of like how he's abandoned the podium. But do I like how he's walking up and down, addressing the jury?
We presume them to be innocent. And sometimes the simple answer is the wrong answer. Sometimes things. I
do kind of like a little bit the way he's moving, but it's just not backed up by anything he says. So it doesn't work on me, man.
Things aren't so simple. And that's what we have in this case. I talked to you in opening about puzzle pieces. I talked to you in opening about how puzzle pieces wouldn't fit. And that's exactly what you saw repeatedly in this case.
Hello, Yendra. What are you working late? You're halfway through your halfway break? Is that what an HW break is? I guess so.
Just one of those puzzle pieces is enough for reasonable doubt. But here we have a mountain of them.
Here we have a mountain of puzzle pieces. Every puzzle piece is from a different puzzle. The state is trying to make a puzzle piece fit, but it's a mess. The picture doesn't make any sense with the puzzle pieces because they're all from, it's a 1,000 piece puzzle, but we had 1,000 puzzles. We took a piece from every box and we tried to make a picture. It didn't work. I think he should have just abandoned this puzzle piece shit before, like just right there at opening statements. He just should have said, okay, this was a bad move. He's kept with it throughout. The state, Georgia Kappelman, has been taking the piss out of him all the way along, saying to Charlie Adelson things like, we all know now, Doctor, because you have revealed the puzzle piece that Katie was the blackmailer.
And let's talk about them briefly. Government Exhibit 59. This is their conspiracy chart. The first puzzle piece that doesn't fit is motive. See, Charlie Adelson didn't have a motive to upend his life. Charlie Adelson had a good life. His business was booming. He was supportive of his sister, but he didn't wake up in the morning thinking about Professor Markel. He didn't go to bed at night thinking about the problems his sister was having. He was living his life. Now, was it a bitter divorce? Absolutely. But through all of those crazy emails, are there any examples of any violence? None. Those emails, we spent about 10 minutes hearing about them this morning. Not Charlie's ideas. By the way, those emails weren't even done. You heard from Wendy Adelson. She never offered any of those things to Professor Markel. She never threatened him with any of those things. Crazy ideas? Yes. And
an upset mother? An upset, psychopathic, vindictive bitch mother? Yes, yes, all of those things. Especially the psycho. Super psycho mother.
Upset mother? Yes. Pushing each other's buttons? Yes. But ladies and gentlemen, even the $1 million offer you heard, lawyers were consulted to make sure it was legal. A far cry from a murder. Their relocation motive. Relocation was denied a year before the murder. And by the way, Wendy Adelson and her 2 boys moving to South Florida would have no impact on Charlie Adelson. Would he be happy that they were there?
Well, apart from that, Harvey wouldn't have to be flying or driving up to fucking Tallahassee every week and not be able to work at the dentist and cut into Charlie Adelson's jet skiing time.
Sure. Would it change his life? No.
That's what it comes down to, you know, for Charlie Adelson. Bit of money, bit of pride, and more jet ski time. Yeah? You already had all the toys in the world, son. And now you've got nothing. Now you're sitting in the concrete shitbox forever, next to a toilet with no seats.
Now, you may wonder, why did we spend so much time on cross proving Wendy Adelson's innocence? The reason being is because on their exhibit, take a look who is in their conspiracy.
Well,
They circled her for you.
let's take a look. We've got Dan over here on the left, and he's connected to Wendy. And Wendy is the daughter of Harvey and Donna. And their son is Charlie. Charlie's going out with Katie, who's the baby mama of Sigfredo, who's best friends of Luis. I mean, it really does work like a puzzle, doesn't it? And it all fits.
In their opening cross. See, they were guessing about Wendy just like they're guessing about Charlie. What the evidence showed is that Wendy wanted to.
And that's the other thing that's peculiar, isn't it? The amount of time. I think Daniel Rashbaum seemed to have more drive, more passion, more focus on defending Wendy Adelson's innocence than Charlie in this case. Isn't that strange? And she's not even on trial? Why is that, Dan? Maybe you'll tell us one day, Dan, or maybe you won't.
Leave South Florida. But when it was denied in the summer of 2013, she made a life here in Tallahassee. What the evidence showed, and remember, I tried to get an email after email after email, and they fought me on it. Ask yourself why. Ask yourself what they were afraid for you to see. You saw that she made appointments after the time of the murder. She made them before. You saw she made plane tickets from Tallahassee to other places in the fall and winter. You saw that she got a new divorce lawyer. You saw that she was making play dates. And significantly, you saw that the entire family was making plans to come up here and see her celebrated for her book at FSU with incoming students. Why is that significant? Because their theory, their simple theory, is that she was part of a murder. It's a puzzle piece that does not fit. And we're going to talk about her trip down Trescott on the 18th, because that's a puzzle piece that they keep on trying to pound and doesn't fit, but we'll do that a little later. The next puzzle piece that doesn't fit. Who had the kids? See, one thing that the state...
Well, the daycare, creative preschool, Ben was in the blocks area playing with blocks, and that's a good indicator. He could be president one day.
And the defense can agree on is that the Adelsons love these two boys.
Little too much, if you ask me.
But they were...
I remember one of the calls between Charlie and Donna. Oh. Hang on a second. I think I've just rubbed some hot sauce into my eyeball. Okay. Ow. Fuck. What was I saying? One of the calls between Charlie and Donna, where the boys, like Donna's at home in the icon, the boys are there, and one of the boys comes up to her while she's on the phone to Charlie talking about all this murder stuff, so it's super important, right? And the boy doesn't like his food. And Donna says to him, okay, if you don't like that, go and tell Grandpa and he'll get you something else. Now, is that a good way to raise children? Shouldn't you Like, I mean, I'm sure we all have our own experiences of that, where it's like, oh, come on, you want me to eat this? Why can't we have that other thing that's really good? And you're told, like, no, you eat that. Now shut up and eat that. And we resent that at the time when it's happening. But I think many people, as they move through life, go on to see the value of that instruction, right? And probably do it to their own kids. You know, is it a good thing to say, if you don't want that, go and tell someone and they'll get you something else? I mean, it doesn't seem like that's going to. That's why Charlie is the way he is, right? Because of those kinds of parental. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Move on.
They hired hitmen twice. And both times, who had custody of the kids? They would take a risk that these boys would be injured, killed. Does that make any sense? The June attempt. Remember, Wendy and Danny shared the kids 50-50.
Well, you know, was it 50-50? I mean, that's what it said it should be in the court filing, but we know that Wendy went to where Dan was playing soccer with the boys and said to the boys, Abba needs to go. And Abba said, I don't need to go anywhere. I want to play soccer with the boys. And the boys said, yay, we want to play soccer with Abba. You know, hey, what are you doing here, Mom? I thought it was an Abba day. I thought we were going swimming with Abba, not to a sushi restaurant with you and whichever this week's Mr. Buff is. We're sick and tired of spending time with Mr. Buff.
The June attempt, we learned from their witness, Luis Rivera, Danny had custody of the kids.
Luis Rivera, who's back in Tallahassee. Isn't it exciting when we see these pictures come in? Have you all seen the pictures of Luis and Katie arriving in Tallahassee? I mean, it really feels like the new season of your favorite show is about to start, you know? It's like Breaking Bad season 6 opening. What do you call the first one? Premiere. The premiere of season 6 Breaking Bad is just about to start and Bryan Cranston is in town. You know?
And we learned that he wouldn't do the murder because the kids were there. The July attempt, they show you a text message about Professor Markel being in town. And they show you a text message where Wendy's asking for the boys on the 16th. The murder's done on the 18th. Who has custody of the kids? Professor Markel. It doesn't make sense. There is no chance if these people were behind the murder, they would take any risk that those boys would be in the crosshairs. Use your common sense. It's a puzzle piece that they cannot explain. And you know what else doesn't make sense? Is their alibi argument. So they make a big argument about this Best Buy repairman coming that morning, how it was set up for an alibi. The argument, by the way, makes absolutely no sense, because then they argue that Wendy purposefully went down the street of where she was supposed to get an alibi from. But let me ask you this question. Again, use your common sense. If the Adelsons and Charlie wanted to set up an alibi for not only Wendy, but themselves, why not do the murder on July 5th when each and every one of them is at a birthday party for their father in South Florida. Wouldn't that have been a better alibi? They didn't do that because they're not behind the murder.
Well, then it would have looked really planned, you know. Hey, when we're all down at the birthday party, let's get that guy killed. So we've all got an alibi, you know. This is, Charlie's all surprised and, in the jailhouse calls after conviction, post-conviction calls, Charlie's like, you know what's a terrible fucking alibi? Calling Best Buy. You know why? Because they give you a window. They arrive between 8 and noon or 9 and 1, and you don't know when they're going to be there. Well, yeah, but that's what makes it quite a good. It's like a double bluff alibi, right? It's like, well, it's not watertight. If it's watertight, it looks like someone's really made a decision to have an alibi. If it's kind of loose, why would it be loose? It's like a double bluff alibi. I'm telling you, man, Wendy is not as dumb as we think. Everything she does is planned.
They didn't know it was going to happen. They have nothing to do with it. It's a puzzle piece that doesn't make sense. It's reasonable doubt.
You know how Daniel Rashbaum comes across to me? I go on all the time about how lawyers are like salespeople, detectives are like salespeople. Daniel Rashbaum, I wouldn't buy anything from him. I wouldn't even buy a mustache comb. And I don't even have a mustache, I wouldn't buy anything off this guy because he's terrible. How does he come across in this? He comes across as like, please believe me. I'm really trying to get you to believe me because I know if I don't do anything, you don't want my product because it's shit. So please buy this stuff. Do you want this stuff? I'll give it to you cheap. I'll knock 50% off the price right now. Just please sign this paper because if I don't get a sale today, my boss is going to eat me alive. Please, I need this. That's not how to sell anything.
Sigfredo threatened Charlie. Now, the state has them as co-conspirators. The testimony is clear. Sigfredo Garcia hated Charlie Adelson. The testimony is clear from their own witnesses that Sigfredo Garcia wanted to kill Charlie Adelson. In fact, you hear that on March 11th, 2014, just 8.5 weeks before the first attempt, you hear that Rivera, that Sigfredo was stalking Charlie, and he wanted to run him over with his car. He wanted to kill him. He's going to do that 8 weeks before he does a murder for him?
It makes it sound like it was like a legitimate attempt, like he decided that today is the day he's going to go out and run over a whole bunch of tables outside Yardbird, right? This is just an angry guy, coked up, boozed up in his car saying, fucking hell, I should run them all over. I've said things like that. Have I done it? No. It's like when people say, oh, I could kill that guy. It's just expression, right?
Makes no sense. But it gets worse. You heard testimony in this courtroom from repeated witnesses, both law enforcement and otherwise, that on July 1st, just 17 days before the murder, Sigfredo Garcia tried to run Charlie off the road, threatened him, left a threatening voicemail that he was going to kill him. Left it with his dad, but thought he was leaving it for Charlie. It's just 17 days.
Barbie for announcing the debate is about to begin in this chat. Well, I hope Kamala Harris and Donald Trump have announced that True Crime Metrix is live right now. You know, on their show. If people are going to announce theirs in this show, then it's only fair that, you know, and they've got moderators. We've got great moderators over here. In fact, we're all going to go and watch the debate later. Oh shit! I've just gone back. Where were we?
Never a payment over time. How smart he is. Does it make any sense that he would create a paper trail of checks from his business to pay for the murder?
Do you think he's that dumb? Yes.
It makes no sense. But aside from that, you heard from Special Agent Sanford. He has done around a dozen murder for hires. Never a payment over time. He's seen extortions like that, but never someone getting paid over time. The money drop was the next day. You heard about that. Ask yourself, if this was a murder for hire, why was payment not made before? See, the state...
Because they hadn't killed him. And they'd already had a bad experience. Charlie paid 50 grand up front the year before, and someone ran off with the money. So this time he said, I'm not going to pay 1 cent, apart from expenses, until the job is done. That's why Wendy was so skittish in the police interview, saying, hey, well, is he dead yet? Can we get confirmation from the hospital? Because we don't want to pay for the murder if he's not actually dead. He's not going to live, is he? Is it, you know?
Gave you examples of days before the first attempt and days before the murder where Charlie Adelson was with Catherine Magbanua. If it's a murder for hire, why didn't he pay her before? You heard on the night of the murder and the night of the extortion, she had to go run around town to find a babysitter for her kids. If it was planned, if Charlie was behind it, why would she not have it planned out that way? Why would he have not paid her before? See, because he had no idea it was going to happen. That's the only thing that makes sense. By the way, why would she need a babysitter at all if it was a murder for hire? If it's a murder for hire, how much time does it take to go pick up money? Go to the house, get the bag of money, and leave. See, the thing is, she didn't know how much time it was going to take. And you know why she didn't know how much time it was going to take? Because she didn't know how he was going to react. It wasn't just a pickup of the money on July 18th. It was a setup of an extortion. Now, we're going to get more into the extortion, but it's amazing to me that the state still doesn't understand what happened. And I wonder if they don't understand or they're trying to confuse you. So let me make this crystal clear now, and we'll get back to it later. On the night...
It always says that. Why are we going to get back to it later? If you're going to make it crystal clear now, what are we going to come back for? It's crystal clear, apparently. You'd say, let me just briefly mention this now and leave it open and we'll come back to it. Not make it crystal clear and we'll come back to it.
Of the 18th, Charlie Adelson had no idea about anything about the Latin Kings. He had no knowledge of the Latin Kings. He doesn't find out anything about the Latin Kings until he's in the car with Catherine Magbanua moments before he goes into Dolce Vita. On the night of the 18th, what he's told is that Catherine Magbanua said she spoke too much and that a friend of hers had done this. Nothing about any Latin Kings. The payment structure makes no sense. The whole purpose of a murder for hire is to hire someone who you are not associated with, who you are not tied to.
Yeah, that would have been a good idea, Charlie, wouldn't it? You know, I thought you had friends in the Cuban neighborhood, Charlie. What are you getting your girlfriend, your current girlfriend, to set up that hit with her baby daddy and his best mate? Are you joking? Who were going to, make it really obvious that the hit was targeted because it was in his home, at his home address, and nothing was stolen. So it wasn't a botched burglary gone wrong. It was obviously a targeted hit, and they're going to trace back that Prius, find out it came from Miami. The killers put their own fucking name on the rental agreement. Didn't change the license plates or anything. I mean, you know what they should have done? They should have stolen like 3 cars, found 3 cars that probably wouldn't be missed for a while. If you're a fucking Latin king in northern Miami district, whatever, wherever they are, you know where to get cars, man. I mean, fuck me. That was Sigfredo's deal, wasn't it? Boosting cars, or stereos at least. I mean, why are you hiring a car in your own name? To be comfortable on the ride up? Oh, it's going to be a long drive, so we probably need something, economical. And how about a hybrid? Should we hybrid? Let's get should we hire a hybrid? I tell you what, let's put it in our own name. Okay. But yeah, what Daniel Rashbaum's saying, absolutely. Yeah, it wouldn't be a good idea to hire someone that you're involved with in a sexual relationship with and get her to hire the guy that she's got kids with. I mean, you couldn't have more of a connection. It's like an incestual plot, right?
Yet, they would have you believe that Charlie would give them checks, would continue to text message with them, would continue to give them gifts, because he was tied to a murder for hire. It shows just the opposite. It shows it's an extortion. Reasonable doubt. Katie's lies. Let me first start by apologizing. If any of you were offended by the tone of my voice during my cross of Catherine Magbanua. See, the thing is, I think you all know me pretty well by now. I'm passionate. And I believe in the system. And the one thing I hate is when someone comes in this courtroom and lies. I hate even more when a murderer comes in this courtroom and lies.
Oh, I just hate it when a murderer comes into this courtroom and lies. You know, I've been lying through my teeth all the way through this trial, lie after lie, but I hate it when a murderer comes in here to this courtroom and lies.
What we know is that the state called Catherine Magbanua. Talk about desperation in trying to prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. They called a woman who lied under oath in her first trial. They called a woman who lied under oath in her second trial. They called a woman who tried to get Sigfredo Garcia to lie for her in her second trial. But worse, they called a woman who just a year ago lied during her proffers.
Lied during her proffers. You know, confession, guys, I still have not made it through the Katie McBanawa proffers. It is excruciating to listen to. It is hard to listen to. It goes on, and not much gets said. And I just burn out. I turn it off. I haven't got all the way through the whole thing yet, but T. Cancella says 36 hours or so until the next hearing. God, doesn't it seem like yesterday that we just had a hearing on this? Fantastic. I'm looking forward to it too, T. Cancella. T. Cancella is so glad their life doesn't revolve around this trial. I think it does, T. Cancella. They will be at work and might have to catch the hearing on replay. Quit your job. Quit your goddamn job.
She denied it. And by the way, they didn't question her on it. But you heard from their own witnesses, including Special Agent Sanford, that he walked out of the room. And he walked out of the room not the first 10 minutes. He walked out of the room over 3 hours after she
Or maybe he needed a piss.
started speaking. Because how he put it, what she was saying made no sense. And they're going to have you base this man's freedom on her words? And why did she lie? Because it's her only way out. But her lying didn't stop there. She lied to you. We caught her in lies. She said she didn't get paid overtime. We know she got paid overtime. She said she didn't know when the murder happened, when the plan changed to a murder, and that the plan was to murder Professor Markel. You've heard the wires. We see her lying to her co-conspirator, according to them, Charlie Adelson, on the wires themselves. We see her saying repeatedly to him that she has called the number hundreds of times. That it's a non-working number, that the number just rings, that they left a voicemail. All of those are lies. By the way, you know who she doesn't lie to? Sigfredo Garcia. You know who else she lied to? Rivera. We heard that. She lied to him about the purpose of the trip. She lied to him about the lady being on the street. She told Lewis that Wendy was on the street the day before the murder with her kids. Now, you may remember the judge read a stipulation in, which both sides agree on, that shows that Wendy could not be on the street with the kids. Rivera didn't lie. She lied to him. She lied to him about the amount of money they got. She told him it was $100,000 when it was $138,000. And she never told him that she was getting paid every month. Remember, Rivera wanted to do a robbery. Ms. Kappelman comes up here in her closing, and she says, why did they just do a robbery? Wouldn't that have been easier? Remember, Rivera brought up that very point. And what is he told by Sigfredo Garcia? It can't be a robbery. Katie says we have to do it this way. Ask yourself why. The bottom line is, Charlie Adelson was conned. On the night of the 18th, he was scared. He didn't think she was part of it. He thought she was protecting him. That's why he thought the money didn't go up every month. That's why he thought he wasn't getting visited by any bad guys. And that made him closer to her over time. Reasonable doubt, a puzzle piece doesn't fit. Immunity. She was offered a get out of jail free card, and she didn't take it. She was offered it before her first trial. Now, she had an explanation for that. I didn't want to turn on my husband. But what about after he was convicted and his appeals were over? Remember, her first trial was in 19. Her second trial was in 2022. See, she couldn't take the immunity offer because when you take the immunity offer, you have to tell the truth. And if you're caught telling a lie, you not only lose immunity, but you've now confessed. You now have no defense. She knew she extorted Charlie. She knew she tricked him. She knew he wasn't part of the murder, and that's why she never took the immunity deal. Reasonable doubt. Puzzle pieces that no matter how hard you try to hammer them in, don't fit. And let me ask you a question. Ask yourself, why, when the state called her as a witness, they didn't ask her one question about the wires? Go back and look at your notes. Not one question about what was said and meant at Dolce Vita. Not one question of what they talked about in the car before Dolce Vita. And then Charlie Adelson takes the stand. And they have an opportunity to rebut him. They have an opportunity to call her back to the stand and say, you're not going to believe this crazy, unreasonable story that Charlie just wove. But they don't call her back to the stand. They don't ask her any of those questions because they don't trust her. Because they know that she can't answer those questions. Because the truth is, they have doubt.
You heard it.
You heard it.
Oh, I hate it when he does that. You heard it. Like that was a big shocking thing, like the jury is gasping, just going, the state has doubts, but they're supposed to be really sure. They told us they were sure, and now they have doubts? Oh my God, this has changed everything. All the evidence that they've told us, they have doubts. Because this little monkey magic man shit hands is fucking saying that, you heard it, yeah. The state has doubt, that's true. Oh, he's funny, isn't he?
And then Charlie Adelson takes the stand.
Carrie Brooks in the house. Good to see you, Carrie. Where you been, girl?
And they have an opportunity to rebut him. They have an opportunity to call her back to the stand and say, you're not going to believe this crazy, unreasonable story that Charlie just wove. But they don't call her back to the stand. They don't ask her any of those questions because they don't trust her. Because they know that she can't answer those questions. Because the truth is, they have doubt.
Ooh, the clincher. Oh my God, the state has doubt. He's lost them. They have no idea where he is in the story at all. He's not good at making people follow along, right? He's an outrage monger. This is his whole thing in the fucking hearings as well. He's like jumping up and down, freaking out. Song and dance man. That's what he is.
You heard it. They have doubt. That's why it took.
Please believe me. You hear that? They have doubt. Can't you see it? Can't you believe me? Please sign here for a month subscription at least. You can have your money back at the end of the month, but I need to show my boss that I've made a sale. Please, I'm going to lose my fucking job. Believe me. Buy this product. Please buy this product.
6 years after her arrest to even charge Charlie Adelson. Ask yourselves, why were they so afraid to ask her any of those questions?
Hello, Crime and Coffee. How did we do on that poll, girl? Did we get the numbers? Have the public spoken? What were the numbers? When do these poll results? I've never seen someone else's poll before. I've never even seen my own. When do these results happen? I see there's been quite a lot of votes. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see those numbers. If you know them, let us know in the comments. Does everyone know this? Crime and Coffee put a poll up today, or maybe it was yesterday, recently, to say, what did it say? It said, should Crime and Coffee do a collaboration with True Crime Metrix? So maybe we should do our own poll in this chat. Yeah, why not? Get the numbers, Coffee, and we'll compare.
Security cameras. Now, let me be clear. In closing, Ms. Kappelman said that no one testified that Charlie's demeanor changed in 2014. No one was asked about that. He doesn't meet June Mchinda until 2015. But what we do know is his behavior did change. What we know from evidence in the record is that he started sleeping with a gun. What we know from evidence in the record is that he invested in camera equipment for his house and for the office. Now, the state comes up here and they say, well, there's this email or text message from months earlier where he's talking about putting in camera equipment. True? Guess what he didn't do months earlier? He didn't put in camera equipment. But guess what he does just weeks after he's extorted? Just weeks after Professor Markel is brutally murdered in broad daylight in his driveway. he puts in camera equipment. If he's a co-conspirator, who's he afraid of? According to them, he's the guy behind it. The camera equipment is to protect himself against himself? Reasonable doubt. The wires support what happened on the night of the 18th. They support that he was extorted. Now, I'll first talk about State's Exhibit 130. You'll remember this when I talk about it. It's 21 months after the murder and the extortion. It's before the bump. It's one of these calls about Dave.
Yeah, we're up against the presidential debate tonight, Coffee. So the numbers have taken a bit of a dive. We've promoted their show. They haven't been promoting us. I thought we would get double the numbers, but they're a little low tonight. Anyway, all 78 of you, go and vote in that poll and tell us what you think. The audience, the public, have your voice. Have your voice.
And it's very interesting and scary what happened in this trial on this call. State plays 18 minutes of the call, and then they cut it off. They ask the witness how important the call is because it's before the bump. Meaning there's no reason whatsoever that anyone is thinking that they're being listened to. 21 months after the murder, 21 months after the extortion. And at 20 minutes and 40 seconds in the call, 2 minutes after they cut it off, you hear what Charlie Adelson thought about Professor Markel. You hear him describe what happened to him as a tragedy. His own words, in real time. You hear him say to his mom that Professor Markel is not replaceable. They didn't want you to hear that. I want to go back briefly to the security cameras. Ms. Kappelman comes in here today and she talks about the times that Charlie went to the police. And she brings up examples of filing a lawsuit. She brings up an example of a dispute with a girlfriend. Those are very different than being told you have 48 hours to pay or you and your family are going to get killed. Especially taken in the context that just 9 hours earlier, Professor Markel was shot in broad daylight, executed. Reasonable doubt, a puzzle piece that just doesn't fit. Let's talk more about these wires. State's Exhibit 108, that's all the wires together. There's subparts of it. And I want to draw your attention to A, B, and C. These are the first three calls with Donna Adelson after the bump. What you see on these calls is that
C. Malone says, it looks like Judge Everett regrets eating the duck soup at the Chinese takeout joint. The court reporter keeps looking back at him with that distinctive look. You know Judge Everett loves a whole duck in a bowl. Everything but the beak and feet. You know, he swallows ducks at the weekend. Feathers, everything but the beak and feet. And with that, he makes a stock for next week, a duck stock. Try putting that on your potatoes.
Initially, for at least the first call and a half, Charlie Adelson has no idea whatsoever what she's talking about. None. Now ask yourself, if you did a murder with someone, wouldn't that be the first thing on your mind? He has no clue what she is saying. He's talking about Yelp. He's talking about the IRS. He's talking about being sued. He has no clue. She says it's about the two of us. We've already done this. We beat a horse to death on this. It's about the two of us. You were extorted, and now I'm being extorted. It doesn't even make sense under their theory of murder. By the way, on those first calls,
I realize that I am multitasking here, okay? I've got the Discord open. I've got the chat comments. I've got this and that, you know, but fuck me, I cannot follow. I have no idea where he is in this story. And the jury just must be like, okay, listen, we've made up our mind. Now we're thinking about the lunch menu, okay? We saw that it was National Cuban Sandwich Week. There was a poster in the lobby. And apparently there's a good place down on Monroe for a Cuban sandwich. So we're halfway there in our minds. Can we get on with this, Rashbaum? We're having the Cuban sandwich. We're coming back and we're filling out the guilty papers. We don't need you to say, don't take my word for it. Go to the wiretaps. Exhibit 31, 3 minutes and 24 seconds. Go to the wiretaps. We're not going to any wiretaps, okay? We've listened to them all in court.
she wants to meet with them when Wendy and Harvey are not around. I'm confused. I thought they're co-conspirators, according to the state. A puzzle piece that makes no sense. By the way, he starts to figure out what it is.
Well, it's really easy to make sense. They don't want to cause hysteria and mass concern, right? They want to deal with the problem in an isolated way so that it doesn't get out of hand. And they're all fucking control freaks, and they want to have 100% say in the course of action that's undertaken. I mean, what's difficult to understand about that, Rashbaum? We've just done it in one sentence.
Is when she brings up blackmail. And when she brings up, and you can listen to it, you'll see the hesitation in his voice that he needs to bring cash when they meet the next day for lunch. He starts to figure it out. And what does he immediately shift his attention to?
You need me to bring cash? Like extortion cash? Is that what it is? Do you remember Donna trying to cover that up on the fucking... These people are so bad at code words on the phone. Oh, and remember to bring some money so you can take me out at lunch. This is a normal day. This is just a normal day. Remember to bring some money so you can take me out to lunch. And Charlie, like, understands what she means, but doesn't continue the code. So the whole thing was pointless. He says, oh, they wanted you to give them cash. Donna tries to make it sound like a normal everyday occurrence. Oh, and remember to bring some money so you can take me out to lunch. Normal. And then Charlie's like, oh, the blackmailer asked you for money? Good job keeping up on the code words, Skippy. Good job being a master criminal, Skippy.
Don't take my word for it. You can listen to the wires. Was the guy white?
Don't take my word for it. Go to the wiretaps.
Or Hispanic? Was the guy wearing a disguise? Was the guy threatening? Did he give you 48 hours? He's trying to figure out if it's the same people. Now, they talk about why would he call Katie? His mom doesn't say anything about Katie, and he has other ex-girlfriends. Well, he has only one ex-girlfriend that on July 18th came to him and said, you have to pay money. I'm not part of this. Because if you don't pay money, they're going to kill you.
The fact that he mentioned the date there made it sound like it was the date that it was the distinction. So he only has one girlfriend that came to him on July 18th and extorted him for money. All right, well, what about July 16th? Yeah, he had another girlfriend that came to him and extorted him for money. Okay.
And see, they ignore D 1392, part of the same exhibit. He slips. 3 minutes and 34 seconds into this recording, Charlie slips. See, he's got to be careful on these calls when he's talking to Katie, because he doesn't want her to think that he's setting her up and setting up her friend, whoever that might be. He doesn't know at this point. He has a guess, but he doesn't know. And the reason why he has to do that is because he needs her help. She's the one who is most equipped to help him figure out, is this a bad guy? Because if it's a bad guy, he's worried they're going to get killed. She says his first instinct isn't to pay. We're going to get to that. His absolute first instinct in Dolce Vita is to pay. You can listen to it. So he has to be careful in how he talks to her, but 3 minutes and 34 seconds into D 1392, he says the following. I mean, you didn't do anything with my mom. And she responds, what would I do with your mom? And he says, just checking. What could that possibly mean if he's not referring to the extortion? How could that possibly be talking about a murder for hire? It cannot be.
What are you talking about? You see, he can't even make sense out of his own lie. You didn't do anything with my mom, right? Means you didn't send one of your Latino gang member friends to go and give a picture of Dan Markel to my mom and ask her for $5,000. That's what the question is.
3 minutes and 34 seconds in, give or take. D 1392. Don't take my word for it. Listen to it. On the wires, Charlie Adelson's way of calming down his mom, and what he is hoping for is that it is the police. How does that make any sense if he did a murder? He did a murder.
It makes sense because they won't be getting extorted. And if the cops are just fishing, he's convinced that they don't have any evidence or enough to... He thinks if they had enough evidence, then they'd be arresting them and not sending in an undercover. But, I mean, he doesn't realize that the undercover has been sent in to trigger them giving more evidence to the cops, right? I mean, he's a fucking idiot. And now Rashbaum's an even bigger idiot for trying to say, does that make any sense? If he was glad that it was the police, if he did a murder for hire, does that make any sense, Tallahassee? Think about it, Tallahassee.
But he's hoping that the police are onto him? It makes no sense. See, he's hoping it's the police because he didn't do a murder. And if it's the police, no one's going to get killed. They went through Dolce Vitae with you, and I'll probably go through it a little bit more with you later. But let me say this. Listen to it for yourselves. Think about the parts that they left out in their closing. How about the 9 times that he says something to the effect of, we have nothing to hide. We didn't do anything. How about the 36 times he says that on the wires?
Exactly, Clarissa. You know, why are they talking in code? All this code, like, how much code was there? I mean, I don't even think they got it all, you know. And I don't think the Adelsons get it all. It's like we said yesterday, right? When Donna and Harvey are in the kitchen at their home, and Donna says to Harvey, hey, did you take the chicken out of the oven? Harvey looks with this sort of confused expression and says, you mean the stuff behind the pool house? And Donna's like, no, you fucking idiot, the chicken in the oven, I smell burning. You know, but even when they're talking normally, they're thinking, is that code? What is that code? I remember that code. The chicken is in the oven. Yes, the code. The stuff behind the pool house. It's like, man, they talk in code so much. It's hard to identify with any degree of certainty what is a genuine conversation, right? These fuckers are just so, I don't know what the word is. Coded up.
How about when he says in
Encrypted. They're all encrypted.
Dolce Vitae, these people only know part of the story, or they think they know part of the story? What could he possibly be talking about if he did a murder for hire? What he's saying is, they think we did a murder for hire. They don't.
Yeah, Monica, I'll put it on the list. We've got a long list of merch to get through, guys. How about that, guys? A new merch idea from Monica. A prize fighter of verbosity with a crazy hair mugshot of Charlie under it. Yeah, yeah, I can see that.
Don't understand I was extorted. They think they know the whole story, but they only know part of the story. And that's why I hope it's the police. In Matsuri, he says twice, the funny thing is. Listen to it in the context. What's funny is they don't realize that the sting they put together is close to the truth. PP 2325, 7 minutes in. They opened on it. But they didn't want to play it for you. They skipped over it. It's in evidence. You can hear it. There's talk about it being someone not from the first layer, but probably the second layer. Talking about extortion. The first layer is when he was extorted on the evening of July 18th, and his payments for the 21 months. The second layer is the bump. He's trying to figure out, is it the police? Is it a copycat? Or is it the same guys?
No, that's not a young Elton John Monica. His glasses are too small. Elton John would have had glasses 5 times the size. But it does look like a 12-year-old boy, doesn't it? We said that yesterday. With a strangely large head.
On the wires, who are the only people that call and speak with the undercover? They call from their cell phones. They don't make a big deal about star 67. They call from their cell phones. They don't get burner phones. The only 2 people that speak with the undercover, Charlie Adelson, Donna Adelson. Ask yourself why. Reasonable doubt, a puzzle piece, doesn't fit. Look at the text messages. Now, I fought to get in these text messages. Ask yourself.
Yeah, he is boring. He is very boring. I mean, the jury are completely asleep, and so are we, guys. I mean, I'm amazed you're all still here. But is it important that we get through this? I just think, you know, with George's fantastic closing, I'm looking forward to George's rebuttal. Is that in this video or the next one? Yeah. I guess we'll play it out. As we're going to be seeing a lot of Rashbaum, it's just like good to remember what he was saying here, you know?
Why I had to fight so hard.
Judge, I'm going to object to Your Honor's rulings and
Sustained.
legal objections.
Please move on.
Look at the text messages that are in evidence. Nothing out of the ordinary. Everything explained. He didn't hide or...
I had that also right in shotgun. That the jurors set their notepads down and appeared restless with Rashi's close. Well, wouldn't you? If I had a notepad open, I'd be closing it up right now, you know?
Flee. Not like Catherine McBanoa. Another lie she told you all.
It's so funny because he's like, write down the time codes. You don't have to listen to the whole thing. I'm going to tell you the segment. And they just sat there, not moving, slowly blinking, thinking about that Cuban sandwich.
She said she didn't know it was the police outside. She didn't hide. You heard she hid. You heard she got a burner phone. II 1393, 1 minute and 47 seconds in. A call between Catherine McBanoa and Sigfredo Garcia. 1 minute and 47 seconds in, Katie tells Sigfredo that she's worried, in essence, that Charlie's parents if they're co-conspirators in a murder for hire, why would she be worried that they're going to go to the police? It doesn't make any sense. Simply put, these puzzle pieces and others do not fit the state's theory. Why? Because while they want to make this a simple explanation, while they use words in closing 13 times could, 6 times maybe, 2 times maybe not, 3 times suspicious, 6 times...
You know, Judge Everett's just listening to this, trying to keep track, trying to follow along. But what he's really thinking is that he's got that last piece of pumpkin cinnamon bread in his office in Chambers. Pumpkin cinnamon bread with fresh strawberries and cream. A big bowl. His bowl.
Coincidence. That is not beyond a reasonable doubt. That is not what we do in this courtroom. We presume innocence. We don't guess. We don't ignore things that don't fit into the theory. Now, I want to turn to the testimony at trial, and I will try not to be repetitive. The first group of witnesses.
You know, guys, this is what is slightly concerning about Donna's trial. And don't get me wrong, I have every confidence that it will be a smooth trial. But on the other hand, it's going to be a dogfight just like all the others, you know? And it's a little bit different this time. Why? Because it doesn't really matter what Donna's defense is. The evidence is stacked against her. All that it was against me. Probably a little bit less. Or about the same. Right? But it doesn't really matter what the defense is because that's not going to work. But it is really clear that the real defense is going to be, listen, Tallahassee, this is a 74-year-old grandmother of 5 who is frail and weak and dying and just wants to go down to Miami and play shuffleboard until she has to go and live in a hospice where Harvey will already be, you know? Don't take that away from her, Tallahassee. Let her play shuffleboard one more time, Tallahassee. You know, that's what the real defense is going to be. And all they need is one member of that jury to have a grandmother or a mother that's recently died or some, some emotional trigger where they just go, fuck it, fuck the evidence. I'm not sending her to jail for the rest of her life. That happens, and it happens more with the elderly. It happens more with elderly women. She's going to be facing the jury. She's been in for 2 hearings already. She's got another one Thursday, practicing her I'm an invalid expression, right? That's going to be their main sell. And I said it from watching this closing argument when it originally happened. Daniel Rashbaum's style of defense is much more suited to representing a granny than a playboy. It's just better suited for that. Why? Because he's not talking about any facts. He's emotional. He's going for emotions. In this case, it's, we don't guess in this country, and that is not what we do in this courtroom. It's like constitutional, that's the proper way, but these are emotional arguments he's making. He's set aside the facts. If he talks about the facts, he wants to stay away from the facts because they all show that his client is guilty. Y'all think guilty, vote guilty. Use your common sense, you know. But with Donna's case, all they need is one jury member to fuck it up, and she's got a hung jury. Right? That would be a game changer, as Wendy Adelson would say. And that would create more confidence in the overall Adelson scheme for Donna's future, for Wendy's future. It would create questions, even if she's just held in jail, retried, and then found guilty. It's something that we don't want to happen, right? And it's their only play. And Daniel Rashbaum, as a bumblefuck idiot that he is, his style is better suited to that kind of defense for a granny, not a playboy. So it's not over yet, Tallahassee, or YouTube, or whoever you are, all 50 states.
He asked very few questions. We don't disagree that the murder of Professor Markel was horrific. They showed you those pictures today. I can't look at them.
Here's an interesting one from Regina Mescal says, it will keep her in jail, but she'd demand trial and the state would have to try her within 180 days or less, so 6 months. Depends on state law. Yeah, no, I think that is the rule in Florida, I think. Yeah, well, I mean, Katie McBanner was in for 3 more years awaiting her second trial. But that was by her choice, I suppose, right? She won't be released. You know, with all that fleeing to Vietnam, they're not gonna give her extended release. But it would delay the arrest of Wendy, for example. You know, because after Donna's convicted, what's holding up the arrest of Wendy? Nothing. If they didn't want her to testify in this trial, she'd probably already be arrested. They've got everything they need. I don't know, you know, but it's very easy to think, because of all what we know in the community and all what we've been studying in the community for all these years, right? That we're just gonna see Georgia Cappleman do her thing, Rashbaum dance around like a chimpanzee with a bad bladder, and get a conviction. But it's not going to be that simple, and it's going to be a little bit different than other stuff that we've seen in this case, right? So next week, tune in, True Crime Metrix. Subscribe to the channel. Oh, by the way, if anyone would like to support the channel, I know a lot of people hear me say this all the time, but you know, new people come in all the time. Maybe they don't know. If anyone would like to support the channel, there is a link to buymeacoffee.com in the description for this video, where you can buy us a coffee.com, which is a great way to support the channel and enable us to make more content, more fantastic content. Patreon is a fantastic place to become a member because of benefits, fantastic benefits, great benefits. Also, super chat, super thanks, super like, super sticker, and super YouTubes, social networks in the description for the video. And thank you very much, Monica, for the super chat. Look at that. Fantastic. Monica says, appreciate all the hours you put in. God knows we put a lot of hours in, Monica. I was going through the comments. I let them slide for a couple of days, and I was on it for like 6 straight hours today. Just going through. I think I'm going to have to stop doing it, guys. It's a huge chunk of the day. If you let it slide, man. You know, Santa Claus reading all these requests, you know, from children for presents. Yeah, all the hours we put in entertaining us, the lack of sleep, buy a couple of cans of Red Bull. Well, thank you, Monica. That's most appreciated.
These people that killed him were animals. He agreed that the police work was phenomenal.
And hello, Kaza. Good to see you. Are you on your boat?
That's why they caught the 3 people who did this.
Oh, Regina Mescal is a judge in Chicago. Well, it's a pleasure to have you on, Judge. Your Honor. Welcome to the show. So you know about law, then. So great, you can share with us facts when we get them wrong. What is that, a picture of your dog? Well, that's a fine-looking dog there.
You also remember, check your notes, that none of those original witnesses said a word about Charlie Adelson. Now, the first witness of substance was Agent Sanford. He came twice, so we're going to deal with him each time. The first time he came on the stand, let me say this. He's an honest and truthful guy. He's exactly what you want from a witness. Compare him to Catherine McBanaway. Compare him to Ryan Fitzpatrick. We'll get to that.
Oh, these slippery little tactics, right? He said he's giving praise to the state and showing that he respects law enforcement. Pat Sanford, exactly what you want from a witness. Professional, great guy, good guy. Even though he testified for the state and says my client's guilty. Good guy, good guy. Compare him to Catherine McBanaway. Aha, gotcha. See that, Tallahassee? You gonna trust a criminal? We don't like criminals because we're not guilty. Fucking idiot, this guy. Bad salesman. Honestly, God, man. This guy couldn't sell me an ice cube on a hot day.
They put in emails through him. And they showed that there was distress in the family, that there was anger over the relocation issue and divorce. They also showed that the relocation issue was denied in 2013, the summer of 2013, a year before the murder. We saw that there were very few emails from Charlie Adelson, although he was aware of some of the crazy emails. And he would say things like, good idea. We learned about the $1 million offer and how Charlie was going to pay a third of the $1 million with the hopes of getting paid back. And we learned through Agent Sanford that there were emails that showed that this $1 million offer, the Adelsons consulted a lawyer on to make sure they were doing things legal. We learned that in his experience, murders for hire aren't paid this way. We've already talked about that. And we learned that there is ongoing discussions about where the kids were going to go to school in the fall of 2014. Ask yourselves, why do you need those discussions if you know you're about to kill a guy and relocate? And then we heard from Wendy Adelson. And again, we...
Oh, now he's going to go on about, yeah, see, Tallahassee? She was taking a flight to New York and she had a return. Not to Miami, Tallahassee. To Tallahassee, Tallahassee. You know, like that's the big... Don't you think if she was planning a murder, she wouldn't have made plans to live in Tallahassee? It's just so weak. Everything about his case is so weak.
We spent a lot of time crossing Wendy Adelson because we wanted to show you that their theory on her was absolutely wrong. And one of the things I did...
Yeah, and we had a deal to give her a load of practice for her trial when it comes up, right?
And it mentioned earlier, in addition to the plane tickets and the hiring of a divorce lawyer and the scheduled meetings and the custody arrangements in August, you see in Defense Exhibit 6 that she's trying to buy a house. Now, they talk about a house on Halloween Halloween of 2013 that Charlie convinced her not to get. What about when she's looking for a house just a month or so before the murder? No evidence that anyone's trying to stop her then. She testified that she was not worried about...
Yeah, they weren't trying to stop her because they knew it was just a play. You know, an act to make it look like she's setting up home in Tallahassee, right? So no one was trying to stop her. I mean, everything he says that is like an argument for the innocence of his client is like, you just don't even need to twist it. You just look at it more closely and you go, oh, well, that fits with the murder. That's completely fitting with the murder.
Disbarment. By the way, we called her lawyer to the stand to buttress her testimony because the same motion was made against her. And she testified she wasn't worried about disbarment either. testified that she never made the $1 million offer or the Christianity email threats. We showed through emails and they're on the wires to support her testimony that after the murder, she was scared and sick. You don't have to take Charlie's word for it, and you don't have to take my word for it. It's on the wires. On the wires themselves, it talks about how Wendy is finally getting over this. We showed through stipulation that there's no way she and the kids could have been on the road the day of the 17th. And we showed that through her that Professor Markel posted in a lot of places about his travel. Now, we have no idea how Catherine Magbanua and Sigfredo Garcia knew where Danny lived and knew when he was going to be out of town. We don't know, because it has nothing to do with us. But we showed you possibilities of where the information could have been found. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the definition of reasonable doubt. As opposed to some crazy explanation, and we'll get to it, that just 3 weeks after dating, he put some letter in her bag that she doesn't know what the letter is about and what it says, but it must have been that. Does that make any sense? And we showed that on the day of the murder, Wendy Adelson voluntarily was interviewed for hours without a lawyer. She gave her phone. She let them search her car.
Oh.
She let them search her.
We just need one more like on the video to get 100% rating, guys. Who hasn't liked the video? We just need one more. We got 100%. As we always do.
Computer. And she named everyone who could have done this. Everyone that came to mind, the first person she named was herself. And yes, she mentioned the hitman joke. And then she said, but he wouldn't do it. By the way,
you see, Kim, you're right on time to hit that like. Give us 100%. That's what you're here for, Kim. That's what you do.
Talk about a puzzle piece that doesn't fit. His co-conspirator goes to an interview with law enforcement on the day of the murder and tells law enforcement about the hitman joke. Does that make any sense? It does if they're not co-conspirators. It does if they had nothing to do with the murder. Reasonable doubt. She talked about her problems in the relationship with Jeff Lacoste, how he was stalking her and jealous. She was adamant that Charlie never actually looked into hiring a hitman.
Jeff was stalking her and jealous. Yeah, I could just see Jeff, sitting in his car all night on Aqua Ridge Way, hiding in a bush with a pair of binoculars. Oh, he just seems really well adjusted,
It was a lie, and was adamant that the dinner they had weeks later, no one called it a celebration dinner.
Oh, we've got such a good video coming out about the Uvia dinner. When are we going to drop that? I want to... maybe I'm going to have to take the weekend off live streams and finish this video, guys. It'd be great to get it out before Donna's trial, because what if my theory is shown to be correct through Donna's trial? I'll never get the credit. Fancy will take it for herself, and I won't even be able to prove that it was me that came up with it. Got to get it done. Got to. or there'll be hell to pay.
Her testimony, a state witness, did just the opposite of proving their case. It gave more reasonable doubt, and I would submit proved innocence. The next witness was Officer Brandon. His testimony was short, but indicative of the state's case. He testified that Wendy drove down Trescott. Again, she explained why. But more importantly, the state tried repeatedly to pound this evidence in to show that Catherine Magbanawa made a phone call, got a phone call at 12:30 and said, I know it's already been done. Remember that testimony? And the state was desperate to say that that phone call somehow came from Wendy Adelson. But look at their own exhibit. The phone call is at 12:30. They showed it to you today. Look where Wendy Adelson is at 12:30. She's nowhere near the residence. According to the state's theory, she must have mind-reading ability. But yet they continue to try to pound that puzzle piece into place.
Every time he says pound, Judge Everett's just thinking pound cake, pound cake, pound cake. Like my mother used to make. The big one. Judge Everett's getting hungry. I can hear his stomach rumbling from here.
They double down on it. Ask yourself why.
What's this, Rabbit Inc? Metrix. Will we see you live on the collaboration? How are we doing on our poll, guys? How many people are in the stream? We've got 90 people in the stream, but only 66 votes. So we need about another 24 votes. So if you've not voted in the poll, guys, give us your opinion. Would you enjoy a true crime Metrix and crime and coffee collaboration? Be honest. Don't be shy. We'll give it another few minutes. Well, will I be on video? I don't really have a good camera yet, and I am broke, man. I have no cash. I have no cash. I've had to be really creative with eating. It's amazing what you can do when you've got nothing. What do we have today? We had some rice and some cucumber, which was pretty soft cucumber. But that's okay. I should always eat like this. It'd be a hell of a lot cheaper. Yeah. So I'm not going to be buying a camera, like, I don't know, for at least a month. But if there's a collaboration, I guess that would happen. I mean, I do have a camera in the laptop, but it's not very good. Yeah, well, and it's usually dark where I am also, because I do it on the Eastern Standard, and I don't have any lights. I have a candle, but that might be a little overly atmospheric. I literally don't have any lights, at all. I guess I could use the phone, but that would use a lot of battery for a stream, and I don't have much power at night either, because it just comes off a battery. Man, listen to my life. What century is this guy living in? He doesn't have power or light or any food. Yeah. But no, there's a check clearing. Should be here from the Buy Me a Coffee donations, support donations by Friday, guys. So we just got to get through. We've got to get through. We'll do it. We'll do it. Not the first time.
Jeffrey Lacoste. The jury instructions will tell you to evaluate bias in witnesses in determining their truthfulness. It is not up for dispute that Mr. Lacoste was a jilted lover who was stalking Wendy Adelson. You heard that from Hale, Officer Hale, the later witness. More importantly, though, Jeffrey Lacoste thought that the Adelsons and Wendy had tried to frame him. He was upset about that.
Yeah, M-Skate, right? The M-Skate said, exactly. Eat the food that was made for you. I doubt they'd make him something he doesn't like. It's not a restaurant. Be thankful for your food. Yeah, well, I think that's one of those good lessons in life, isn't it? But of course, Donna's like, oh, if you don't like that, just go and tell your grandfather and he'll get you something else. It's just like this instant gratification choice, spoiled kid, I mean, I just don't think it's a good model. And sure, I can remember being young and being told that and thinking, what the fuck, cookies now, just a whole plate of cookies, please. But it's just not how it works, is it?
They thought he tried to frame them. Thought they tried to frame him for this murder. And so his testimony was shaped by that anger. The truth is, he had a nice time at dinner with Charlie on March 11th at Yardbirds. There's a text message in real time, unsolicited, confirming that. Charlie didn't send him a text, he sent Charlie a text. The truth is...
I love your Judge Everett food choices, C. Malone. You know he wants to order the Sailor platter with Cheddar Bay biscuits, but we'll hear it from his wife later.
When he talks about Charlie having associations with the Cuban element, whatever he testified to, by the way, no one in this case is Cuban. Tell you a secret, Sigfredo Garcia is not Cuban. Luis Rivera is not Cuban. Made up.
George Dixon, we love Judge Everett, We love Judge Everett, and we love imagining him love desserts. That's the game here, and I'm not going to change.
He admitted that even though he supposedly thought Wendy was part of a murder, he would have gotten back together with her. Does that make any sense? He says that Wendy told him...
Who is that? Is that Monica again? Monica! 2 chunky donations, Monica. You're too kind. Thanks so much. Towards some firm cucumbers. Steady. Yeah, it's not that kind of party, but thanks. No, Monica, thank you so much. You're a sweetheart.
That Charlie really looked into hiring a hitman. He says she told him this when they were breaking up. Does that make any sense?
Your closing argument doesn't make any sense. We don't even remember the case. I think that's his tactic, isn't it?
He says that after they broke up, she told him it was a celebration dinner. Meaning she's telling him, I did a murder with Charlie. Does that make... And then you hear about these notes. You hear it from Officer Hale and others, how there's a bunch of notes. He took a bunch of notes. I never saw.
No one is bashing Judge Everett for his looks. We're not even bashing him at all, George. No one is bashing Judge Everett for his looks. His looks are incredible. You know, what a man! What a fantastic looking man. I like imagining him and how much he loves chocolate fudge. You know, and him and General Isom in an egg roll eating competition or a cannoli eating competition. Two champions, thoroughbreds, right? That's my game. And a group of people like that game. If you don't like that game, you don't need to play. But we're not bashing Judge Everett on his looks in any way. So, you know, your opinion is not based in fact, my friend.
The notes. You know why? He destroyed them. Ask yourself why. His testimony makes no sense, is biased, and should be discounted as nonsense. As someone who is angry.
Is he talking about George Dixon? I've forgotten who he's talking about because I was thinking about George's comments, but that fit just then. What did he say?
I never saw the notes. You know why? He destroyed them. Ask yourself why. His testimony makes no sense.
Here we go. This is for you, George.
Is biased and should be discounted as nonsense.
Yeah, his testimony makes no sense. It's biased and it should be discounted as nonsense.
As someone who is angry because he thinks they tried to frame him.
He thinks they're bashing Judge Everett.
Stephen Webster. Honest. Nice. This was Professor Markel's divorce lawyer. But notice something. He's not a divorce lawyer. He's a criminal lawyer. He never litigated anything in the case. But yet they call him.
No, I don't have PayPal, Mona Lisa. I tried to set it up, but it's not as straightforward as it is in the States. So I just stopped doing it. I do have an account, but I can't get into it. And they make it really hard to, you know, what do you call it? Click, forgot my password. There's like all these layers of security, I guess, because it's a money thing, right? And I just, I don't know, it's on ice.
To try to bolster some sort of motive that Wendy Adelson was so fearful and the family was so fearful that she was going to be disbarred, that these motions were going to be successful. When I asked him, did you know that the judge was frustrated with Professor Markel? He had no idea because he wasn't the lawyer at the time. Junum Chinda. She testified that Charlie sleeps with a gun. Why would he sleep with a gun if he was part of the murder? She testified that during the bump, she wasn't actually clear, but I'll give him this. During the bump and after that, he was upset. He was acting weird. Of course he was.
Hey, Mary Bartlett, thank you very much for the coffee on buymeacoffee.com. We really appreciate the support, Mary. Thank you.
He didn't know whether his family was about to get killed. He didn't know who was extorting them the second time. She also testified how Charlie flew out of the country and always returned.
And Kimbo, thank you for the super sticker, Kim. And enjoy that shirt. Enjoy that fantastic shirt when it arrives on Friday. Yeah, go back to the swings.
Ryan Fitzpatrick. To me, this witness sums up the state's case. And it's scary. He had no firsthand knowledge of anything. And you learn only through cross-examination that years after...
Absolutely, Monica. Judge Everett is hot. And you know that guy can dance, right? That guy is a demon on the dance floor. What do you think the best song for Judge Everett to dance to would be? Let us know in the comments, guys. What is that song? A real number, a real mover.
The murder, when he was about to be sued by Charlie, he threatened him to go to the FBI and say things bad about him. You learn that just days before coming in this courtroom, he's on a blog taking bets about whether he can cause him to serve the rest of his life in prison. Disgusting.
Well, thanks, Nola Vine. That's very kind of you. Yeah, I should continue setting up PayPal. I think a lot of streamers and YouTubers have that set up in the description. I'll get back on it. I'll get back on it. It's got to be done. It's got to be doable, right? I mean, it's a major thing. They've got to. It's a bit different how it works in Europe, though, and Portugal, and the different countries in Europe. So, yeah, we'll look into it. Thank you very much for the idea, Nola.
Luis Rivera. The state still doesn't get it. I'm not going to discredit his testimony, just the opposite. To me, Luis Rivera's testimony was in some ways the most significant. He's an animal, but he was truthful. He said what he knew.
He's an animal, but he was truthful. Most animals are truthful. You know, do they lie? You know, animals are truthful. That's why we get along with them, right? They don't bullshit us like an Adelson. You know.
Proved firsthand why you must find Charlie Adelson not guilty of all 3 counts. It proved firsthand reasonable doubt. It was an aha moment. Let me remind you of it. He admitted that Katie was the mastermind of the killing. He said that everything had to be cleared through Katie. He said that everything he and Sigfredo knew came through Katie.
Yeah, as the middle woman between the hiring people and the guys that they're hiring. I mean, everything he says that is like, look at this Tallahassee, look, he's an innocent man. You just go, well, actually, that means he's guilty. He's so stupid.
He said he wanted to do a robbery, but Katie said he couldn't do a robbery.
Oh, Judge Everett doing Thriller. Yes, Amy. And doing it on point. Better than Michael Jackson. Right? I mean, in the red jacket and everything. Oh, man. Ba-dum, bum, 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 bum. Ba-dum, bum, bum, bum. He's humming it now in his head. Look at him.
That it had to be done this way. We went through all the lies that Katie told him through Sigfredo, the lady being on Trescott, the purpose of the trips, the amount of money. He now understood why he got $37,000 instead of $35,000. We went through the fact that he knew nothing. Word has come down, guys, that Judge Everett just took a bite out of something. He's sneaking in some Rice Krispies. Rice Krispie squares. No, something less crunchy. What could it be? He said he wanted...
like a toffee or something, just one toffee, and he's probably unwrapped them all before court is in session, right? So he hasn't got to deal with the foil. That'd be embarrassing, wouldn't it? He's got a little row of toffees.
To do a robbery, but Katie said he couldn't do it.
He's reaching. He's going into the toffee drawer.
He said that everything had to be cleared through Katie. He said that everything he and Sigfredo knew came through Katie. He said he wanted to do a robbery, but Katie said he couldn't do a robbery, that it had to be done.
Oh man, God, that's got to be a short. Judge Everett sneaks a toffee. He reaches and then puts something to his mouth, and then the camera cuts. They must have a disclaimer, an agreement, non-disclosure agreement.
He said he wanted to do a robbery.
Don't show the judge eating in court.
But Katie said he couldn't do a robbery, that it had to be done this way. We went through all the lies.
Oh, brilliant, brilliant. Where's George gone? Is he going to tell me that that's not funny?
That Katie told him through Sigfredo, the lady being on Trescott, the purpose of the trips, the amount of money. He now understood why he got $37,000 instead of $35,000. We went through the fact that he knew nothing about the payments over time or the gifts to Katie. And here was the punchline. When asked, could this have been an extortion and not a murder for hire? Could they have lied about that to you too? His answer was yes. One of the two shooters admitted to you that knowing what he knows now, this could have been an extortion. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the definition of reasonable doubt. Am I going to discredit him? No. I'd never talked to him before.
Great ideas for Judge Everett's bust a move, dance moves, guys. I can't read them all out, but yeah, too sexy for my shirt would be good.
The first time I met him was in this courtroom. Their witness says it could have been an extortion. Catherine McVanawa. Now, we've talked a lot about her already, and I don't want to talk about her much more. But ask yourself about all her lies. This Halloween nonsense. Go take a look at Defense Exhibit 34. Charlie Adelson knew nothing about Sigfredo Garcia on Halloween. You see it in text message on November 27th. They'll try to spin the text message. Read it for yourselves. Defense Exhibit 34. Her testimony alone should give you a mountain of reasonable doubt. Clarissa Libiedo and Erica Johnston. The state called them to prove something we already admitted in opening. Katie didn't work at the Adelson Institute. Mary Hall, truthful witness. She confirmed that Katie got paid overtime. She couldn't give you exact numbers, but when you look at the numbers, you see it corresponds to around $3,000 a month. She confirmed that the Adelson checks created a paper.
The two says If you back it up, and I don't blame him at all, how does a diabetic handle these long closings? Well, I guess you have a big packet of sweets, don't you? And as long as you're willing to share some of them with Judge Everett, he'll probably let it slide.
Portrayal. Something that Charlie had no issue with because he was not part of a murder. She confirmed the gifts, the payments for the car repairs. By the way, she confirmed that he put many of those on his credit card, creating a paper trail as well. Now let's talk about those gifts, because I want to make sure everyone understands it. Over time, Charlie became more and more convinced that Katie was not part of the extortion. But he needed her help. See, because as long as she was helping him, he knew he wasn't going to be paid a visit. As long as she was helping him, he knew the money wouldn't go up. And so he tried to keep her happy. Now, they want you to believe he tried to keep her happy because he was worried that she would go to the police and report a murder that they both did together. Does that make any sense? No, he tried to keep her happy.
How long do you think it's going to be before Dan Rashbaum says again, that, ladies and gentlemen, is the definition of reasonable doubt? He says it about 15 times, and I think it's more towards this latter section. It's like his big close, right? He's the closer. He's the closer.
Because he wanted her to know he was appreciative that she was helping him. Investigator Corbett, a thorough witness, straightforward guy, honest. This is the phone analyst investigator. He looks at patterns. He doesn't know what's said on the phone. It's guesswork. He sees the frequency in the amount of calls. And he looks for patterns. Now, when asked, could these calls be because it's a boyfriend and a girlfriend, a mother and a son, husband and a wife? He says, of course. He also confirmed that there's an absence in records.
Absence in records. Steve Thompson, you'd like to know when live streams are coming up? Well, it's probably my fault because I've been so preoccupado. Yeah, I gotta get up. I gotta start putting the notifications up early because I usually just get to it like 15 minutes before we start, which doesn't give much time for YouTube to notify y'all. But also come over to the Discord, Steve, and we announce them on there. But we're usually every day in the evening for Eastern Standard, and yeah, we usually start between 7 o'clock and 8:30, something like that. Usually every day. Certainly up until, well, for the next couple of months, because it's the run up till Donna Adelson's trial. Then we're in trial. It's going to be a hefty week. And then we're straight into Sarah Boone, pretty much, right? Another fantastic trial. And that, I mean, when she was representing herself, they'd allowed 3 weeks. Maybe it's not going to take that long now. I think they mentioned a I think the state said that their case in chief would take between 6 and 8 days or something. I can't remember. Maybe it'll be a couple of weeks, but it's going to be well into October that we're very busy here at True Crime Metrix. And of course, when trial starts for Donna Adelson, we'll be starting at 9 a.m., 8:30. And doing the whole thing live. So make sure everyone subscribes to the channel to watch the trial in the best place available on the internet, True Crime Metrix.
That by the time they arrest Charlie Adelson in 2022, We can no longer get phone records before when they got them originally. We can no longer get SunPass records. SunPass records would show that Donna Adelson and Charlie Adelson, Donna Adelson and Harvey Adelson never were at Charlie Adelson's house that night. He confirms that.
This was what was coming up in the recent motion in limine hearing with the SunPass records for Donna's trial, saying, yeah, it showed her get on the expressway, the turnpike, but it didn't show her come off. You know, fucking these guys are just, they're trying every little sneaky trick in the book, and I guess that's what they're supposed to do, right? But it's just embarrassing to watch in the face of such conclusive evidence. It's like, you know, you're just trying to wiggle out of it, and it's transparent. And
and he also confirmed that there were a lot of calls that are consistent with when Charlie is driving to work and coming home from work. Now, I want to talk about this landline issue because it is crazy. It may be the craziest thing in this case. And it's done to incite you.
it's the craziest thing in the case, is it? Well, we saw the entire call records in George's closing of Charlie Adelson calling his parents over the course of 2 years, right? What was it? 0.8% of the calls over 2 years were to the landline. And 3 of those took place at this very relevant time. You know, I mean, oh, it's the craziest thing in the case because I say so.
When you think about it, you're going to
Oh,
see.
oh. Thank you, Laura, for the super sticker. That's very kind of you, Laura, and we really appreciate it a lot.
It means absolutely nothing. So they have a chart. She showed it in closing of frequency in using the landline, calling the landline. And you see that Charlie hardly ever calls his parents' landline. Okay? And they want to show you that on a particular day or days, he calls the landline. So that must mean something. What does it mean? He's using his cell phone. He's calling his parents' number that has been the same number since the year he was born. Grasping at straws. That's what that is. Then they confuse a wired call with those calls. What they're confusing is there's a call after Charlie. You'll see it in, go look at it. There's a call after Charlie learns about the text message that they sent to his mom at like 2 in the morning. You'll recall that he and his parents meet at the pool at their apartment, and you'll recall that Charlie then goes and he goes to a friend's office and he gets a call or calls Katie, and then he says, I'll call you from a landline. And that's because he doesn't get good service in that office. It has nothing to do with his parents' apartment. This landline, it doesn't mean anything. It's like magic. It's like they're putting on a magic show. Use your common sense.
How many times do I need to say it that Daniel Rashbaum reminds me of a children's entertainer, whether that be a magician who visits a 6-year-old birthday party, or a balloon animal. What do you call it? What do you call those guys? A sculptor? A balloon animal, you know, a guy who makes balloon animals. Now he's on about magic tricks.
Corbett also confirmed that Charlie's house was a stone's throw away from the turnpike, and that the most direct route to Tallahassee for Donna and Harvey was to take the turnpike, which passes right outside his house. And he confirmed that Charlie didn't leave his house for more than 24 hours after the night he was extorted. They show you that gym text. Corbett, their own witness, confirms he didn't leave the house. We're almost there. Special Agent Jimenez.
Oh, absolutely, Amy. Daniel Rashbaum's been rehearsing this. And the thing that you can really see is that Daniel Rashbaum is only doing what he rehearsed. All this movement he's doing around, this little choreography that he's going over here, he's going over there. Those are the exact steps he's been taking all week in his hotel room, right? What he can't do is take his rehearsal and become a living thing within it that can respond to the room. He can't do that. It's a very, very important thing to be able to do as an actor or an attorney, right? Because this is acting, but he just can't do it. He's just doing his rehearsal. It's like a musician. If you practice a song on a piano or a guitar for months and you can play it perfectly, you can play it backwards, you can play it whatever, and you get on stage and you don't feel with the other musicians and be in the moment, you're going to be shit. And Daniel Rashbaum is like that pianist that's just doing his rehearsal that he's been practicing on his own, right? He can't jive with the other musicians at all. And I bet he can't dance for shit, right? If you put Thriller on for for Daniel Rashbaum to dance to, he probably wouldn't even know the tune, right? Judge Everett would take him to school every time.
No real substance.
I mean, even Isom can dance, sort of. You know, maybe a different kind of song.
He pretends to be a Latin King gang member. Simply. When he does the bump of Donna Adelson. It's going to be critical that you hear that and understand that. He pretends to be a brother of...
Thank you so much, Leslie. Get some protein. We need you strong for trial. Actually, there was also a can of tuna involved in tonight's meal, if you can call it that. So we got everything, you know. We got our vitamins, we got our carbohydrates, and we got our protein all in one meal. And the whole thing cost about 45 cents. But thank you for the super chat, Leslie. That's most appreciated.
Of Tato. And he testified up here.
Shit, did I have the mute on mic, or did you hear me say thank you? I hope you did. And we did get some protein, tuna. I don't know if the mic was on mute or not. Sorry. Thank you, Leslie.
Corbett, their own witness, confirms he did. We're almost there. Special Agent Jimenez. No real substance. He pretends to be a Latin King gang member. Simply. When he does the bump of Donna Adelson. It's going to be critical that you hear that and understand that. He pretends to be a brother of Tato. And he testified up here, the reason why he did that is because he wanted the Adelsons to know that it was gang related. Up until this point in time, we're now in 2016, April 19th. There's nothing about Latin Kings. No matter how many times Ms. Kappelman wants to ask Charlie about Latin Kings in 2014, or talk to you about Latin Kings in 2014.
Charlie, when he's just getting out of Suicide Watch and he gets back to, well, not Gen Pop, but wherever he was, you know, his cell, it sounded like he had some bunkies in there. He's like, get me a can of tuna. You know, it's not a scotch, it's not a joint, it's not a filet mignon, it's not a piece of sashimi, it's get me a can of tuna now. That is his new release. Do you remember the other day when we went through what you can buy in commissary? Man, is that a bleak selection. But I guess you adapt, right? Suddenly all of those selection things become the best goodies that you can look forward to. You know, you've got to get that typewriter wheel, you know, for Christmas, hoping to get a typewriter wheel for Christmas. Because the one I have at the moment, it's always clicking. So I'm hoping to get a brand new typewriter wheel for Christmas.
2014. They're nowhere near this case in Charlie's mind until 2016. And more precisely until April 20th of 2016. And we'll get there in a moment. But Jimenez testifies that he inserts this into the bump. Then we heard from Agent Bronstein and Keith McElvey. And we learned from them that only part of Dolce Vita is recorded. You saw it's difficult to hear. You can't hear almost anything Catherine McMahon was saying. And we learned that there's numerous recordings. By the way, you have two of the recordings. I submit to you that the recordings are the exact same. You can listen to them for yourselves. But it's interesting where they started the recording that they played for you. And we know what he meant when he said that because he never fled. You heard from Special Agent Sanford. He went to places far away. Extradition's tough. And he always came back. Investigator Kendall Matsuri. Probably my favorite question in the case that you didn't understand till later when I asked him whether he didn't like sushi. That's how they knew he was.
I mean, he's referencing cunnilingus here in a murder trial, right? That's why it's his favorite question in the case. That's the reference. Is that appropriate?
Police. But he testified that when he arrested Charlie in 2022, there was barbed wire and cameras all over his house.
Look at
Ask yourself why.
Look at his cheeky smile when he says that.
Matsuri. Probably my favorite question in the case that you didn't understand till later when I asked him whether he didn't like sushi. That's how they knew he was police. But he testified that when he arrested Charlie in 2022, there was barbed wire and cameras all over his house. Ask yourself why. He confirmed that that arrest was 6 years after the arrest of Sigfredo and Kate. Ask yourself why. Now they put on evidence through Special Agent Sanford a second time, and they were called. They called him to put in all the wires, but he couldn't really talk about what the wires meant.
Judge Everett has transported himself to a nice front porch with a rocking chair. The smell of the cinnamon apple pie cooling on the windowsill is drifting down the porch.
Because he wasn't part of those conversations. Only two people could really talk about what they were meant. And frankly, I thought maybe we'd have a he said, she said case in this case. They didn't call Catherine McVandal. You only have one version, the truth of what was said on those wires. And we'll get to that. Sanford, the second time, confirmed that Katie was hiding when the police came knocking on her door. She lied to you about that. He confirmed that Katie lied during her proffers, that he had a walkout. She lied to you about that. He confirmed that there was no evidence of any calls between Katie and Charlie after Sigfredo's arrest in the spring of 2016. He testified to the numerous lies that Katie told on the wires to Charlie and how she didn't lie to her co-conspirator, Sigfredo. That was their case in chief.
Yeah, someone's going to need to get the paddles out for Judge Everett in a second, man. He's about to drop.
We had no obligation to put on a case.
He's thinking, oh, man, I should not have had that third sandwich. That third sandwich looked good at the time, but I'm paying the price now, man. I've got the meat sweats.
When you're evaluating the presumption of innocence and whether they met their burden beyond a reasonable doubt, stop right there. They didn't come close.
They didn't come close to reaching their burden. That's not what we do in this country. We don't let the state reach their burden of proof. Occam's razor, ladies and gentlemen, is a guess. We don't guess in this courtroom. That's not what our system is. Terrible. And Donna's watching this live in Miami, just going, yep, that's our Dan. That's our Dan. Tell them, Tallahassee. Tell them what to do, tell it.
But we put on a case. We talked a little bit about lawyer Adelson. We can move on from her. I think you get the point of what her purpose was. But Charlie Adelson testified.
Yeah, he did. That was a fucking disaster, wasn't it? But, talk about misreading the room. Again, a guy that can only rehearse, can't be present in his delivery at all. Getting shitty with Kappelman, and Kappelman was just baiting him. She knows he's got a fucking ego the size of a house, right? You're going to quote me, date me. Oh, you want to know what call? I'll tell you what call. Okay, I'm going to go through all of the pages in my mind because I remember every page and the dates. I have a whole system in my mind. And it was page number 418. And the call was on the 22nd of April at 4:15 a.m. And it lasted for a duration of 22 minutes and 45 seconds. Blah, 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 blah. It's like, okay, well, that's not a natural memory. You're just showing us that you've really prepared your lies.
And when he testified, you saw him explain on direct what happened on the 18th. How he was extorted. How he was fearful for himself and his family. You heard why he didn't go to the police. Now, listen, some of us might go to the police, some of us might not. You heard why he didn't go to the police. Reasonable.
Yeah, that's funny, Carrie. Whenever Carrie hears the name Sigfredo, she thinks Alfredo, as in shrimp Alfredo. And there's a girl called Shrimp. And everyone's eating shrimp tacos. And you've also got chicken Alfredo, haven't you? And in the Sarah Boone case, we've got Mr. Cacciatore, and there's a chicken Cacciatore. You see, it's all connected, guys. This is part of what makes me think we're all in a coma. We're all in a coma. None of you exist. This is all my coma dream. Yeah, I'm just going to wake up in a hospital, both legs amputated. You know. Keep a happy thought, Metrix.
He had just seen what had happened to Professor Markel. He knew the danger of these people. And she wants you to think that he would negotiate with Katie that night. He was stunned. What was there to negotiate? And again, there's no counter narrative because they didn't call Katie Magbanua and ask her about it. You heard why he thought Katie wasn't part of it and was protecting him. And you may remember Miss Kappelman trying to trick him. And he was clear. In 2014, he had no idea she was behind it. No matter how many ways she tried to ask the question. You saw him explain all the wires. I'm not going to do it here. I won't do that to you all. You saw him explain every word on Dolce Vita.
You've been doing it to us for a fucking hour and 35 minutes already, man.
You saw him explain what Dolce Vita was about. See, what you learn is that he met with his mom. And at first he thought this might be the same original extorter because he knew that Catherine and Sigfredo were having issues. And that made him nervous. But he also saw how different this was. And I apologize. I went over so many wires where it's the same thing over and over and over as to him trying to compare the two events. I did it for a reason. It wasn't to bore you. It was to show you in real time what was on his mind. When he met with his mom, because of the differences, he was pretty certain it was the police. And he had no clue who Tato was. But then he meets with Catherine Magbanua in that car, and he freaked out. And you know why he freaked out? Because he learns that there is a Tato.
He learns that there is a taco, but it's not a fish taco. They only had beef. And he freaked out because he hates beef tacos and he loves shrimp fish tacos.
That he is not only in the Latin Kings, but is the head of the Latin Kings. He learns that he has brothers. Remember the bump? My brother is incarcerated, and he learns that Tato is incarcerated. And he thinks to himself, oh my God. And by the way, he also learns, which we now know is a lie, because again, Katie was trying to protect Sigfredo. He learns that Tato was the killer. He wasn't the killer. Sigfredo was the killer, Tutto. But in the car, he learns about the Latin Kings, he learns about Tato, and he learns that that is the guy that she told him killed Professor Markel. And you wonder why he's talking the way he's talking at Dolce Vita. He is freaking out. He thinks his mom, if they don't pay, is going to get killed. And if she doesn't get killed, someone else is. And so when they walk into Dolce Vita, that's what the debate is about. So you have to understand the context of the conversation. When they're talking about rental cars, it's because he's just learned about the rental car. When they're talking about dead gang members, it's because he's just learned about a gang member, Kato. And the debate is, he wants her to pay. And she's telling them, it's not them. It's not him. And the reason why she's telling him it's not him is because she knows who Tato is. You saw Tato. He'd be a little bit more threatening than the guy we saw in the video. And his associates would be a little bit more threatening than Mr. Jimenez. And through Dolce Vita, what you see is a couple things. And you can listen to it. Don't take my word for it. You see him trying to act tough. But then you see him quickly say, but I don't know anything. I'll keep my mouth shut. So he's acting tough. I'm carrying a gun. I'll shoot the gang member in my driveway. But I don't know anything. I'm keeping my end of the bargain from July 18th. I'm not going to say a word. This discussion about information and details. It's clear on Dolce Vita and on The Liars what they're talking about. The details aren't details about a murder. The details are details about the payments. By the way, that's what they talked about when Jimenez came and did the bump. We know you've been helping. The payments. They leave.
Yeah, what is hard about that, Carrie? What does he say? Dolce vitae. Dolce vita. What is he? Even the way he says Tato is weird. This guy just can't do anything Latin at all.
About the fact that repeatedly he says, I don't care if it's
Lawyers are supposed to speak Latin, you know?
the police because I've got nothing to hide. It's said in Dolce Vita. Discussions about the importance of the characteristics using a real phone number. He's not wearing a disguise. He's not giving 48 hours. He's not being threatening. Again, we talked about it.
Exactly, Clarissa. You could not possibly confuse Sigfredo. And I heard someone tell me that he was 6'1". I think he's taller than 6'1". I'm 6'1", and I look at him in the court and I think if I was standing next to him, he'd be taller than me. You know, when you have that sense about something. And then you've got friggin' Luis Rivera, who's like 5'4" or something. That is short. That's shorter than any woman I've ever dated, right? 5'4" is short, man.
They only know part of the story. Discussions about who he hopes it is. Hopes it's the police. And you see that contrary to what Ms. Kappelman said in closing, his absolute first instinct is to pay. He wants her to pay. She doesn't want to pay.
He wants her to pay. He wants her to pay. Her wig. He wants her to pay. Oh, do you think Daniel Rashbaum wears a toupee? I've been wondering that. He's as bald as Judge Everett. He's as bald as Mr. Morris, co-counsel for the defense. But he wears a toupee, and now he wants her toupee.
See, she knows it's not Cocktail. She knows it's not Sigfredo. And she's trying to convince him it's the police. And you'll see in the video, she goes to the bathroom. And by the way, he's been talking like this. He doesn't stop. She goes to the bathroom, and he finally listens. And when she comes back, you see his conversation changes again. He says, okay, I see what you say. Here's the number. Call the number. But he starts talking about how it's different. And then he calls his mom, and he talks to his mom about how it's the police. And Matsuri
It's 6570, Neverly.
is the same thing. Now, why they're talking in code, listen, I think this is semantics. There is no code, but we can agree on this. They are talking carefully. And the reason he is talking carefully depends on who he is speaking to. When he's speaking to Catherine Magbanua, he is speaking carefully because he needs her help. And he does not want to spook her. When his mom and him are speaking carefully, it's because he does not want anyone to know, including the police, about the first extortion. Because if they know...
I've always wanted to know what bangs are, because we don't say that in Europe for hair. Is that like a fringe? Is that what bangs are?
about the first extortion, they're going to come talk to him, and he believes that he and his family will be in danger. And by the way, he doesn't go to the police because it's clear the police wouldn't believe him.
Yeah, okay, we'd call that a fringe, Carrie. Did you guys not say fringe? Or do you say fringe as well? It's like bangs. Can you have bangs and a fringe? You see, this is way more interesting than talking about Daniel Rashbaum.
Just like they don't believe him right now.
And Charlie Adelson's just fucking confused at this point, isn't he? You know, what his real expression is one of clinging on to hope and trying to stay positive, trying to make himself believe that this is it. This is the moment where Dan Rashbaum brings it home. The closer doing the closing argument. Send him in. He's the one to sort this out. You know, that's what he's conscious that he should be looking a certain way, but he doesn't know what that is, right? He's like, oh, is it guilty? Or no, it's not guilty. Innocent. But am I angry or should I be sorry? He just doesn't know. He hasn't had good direction. They haven't practiced this because he's so fucking arrogant that he was going to wing it and then he blew it. Ha ha.
Now, during Miss Kappelman's cross of Charlie Adelson, you saw it. I'm not going to go into it in detail. But one thing is clear, is that he knew the wires cold. He knew dates. He knew what he said on particular wires. And you might ask yourself, why? His life is dependent on those wires. For the last year and a half, he's been in prison, jail. He's reviewed those wires because he knows they show what really happened. The wires show his innocence. And they certainly don't show proof beyond a reasonable doubt of his guilt. You know, like the landline, I want you to think about the bullet bourbon.
It's rye whiskey, Dan.
Agent Maltese was told to take a picture of that bullet bourbon. Done to incite. Thank God Wendy Adelson kept the invitation.
What do you mean, done to incite? It's evidence. Done to incite, yeah. They found this clue and they photographed it to incite the theory, the state's case, which is full of holes, Tallahassee.
Invitation to the party. Not the simplest explanation, but the truth. The state's case is like that. The case against Charlie Adelson is a case of guesses and of assumptions.
Assumptions. Hey, thanks so much, Rabid Kangaroo, for buying us a coffee on buymeacoffee.com. Really appreciate it, Rabid.
It was not brought until just...
Reminds me, actually, there's another channel called Rabid Dog. I don't know if that's a relation of yours, Rabid Kangaroo, but also covering the Boone case and also covering the Adelson case, I think, a bit. I don't know if they're going to cover the trial. But there's some interesting stuff on there, guys. It's a nice watch through, easy going. There's guests. I think he's from Scotland, the guy. But yeah, it's good. Rabid Dog.
Weeks before Catherine McVanawa's second trial. 8 years after the murder, 6 years after the arrest of Sigfredo and later Catherine McVanawa. The evidence wasn't there then, and it isn't there today to meet their high burden. The puzzle pieces do not fit. He did not participate in the murder of Professor Markel.
Has Kosher Style, has Charlie had his mugshot in Tallahassee from today? I haven't seen that one yet. Where is that? We've got to show that.
He didn't do it. He didn't conspire to do it. He didn't solicit it. By the way, speculation can be reasonable doubt. You can go back there and speculate. You can use your common
I feel an objection coming. Come on, Georgia, stand up.
sense and figure out.
Your Honor, misstatement of the law.
It is a misstatement of the law. The law is you don't speculate. You can go back there and speculate. You can go back there and just make up anything you want, Tallahassee. Okay? If you all think guilty, vote guilty.
Approach. Regarding the last comment concerning speculation, you may continue with your argument.
You're allowed to use your common sense. That's what you're allowed to do. That's what you're told to do. You don't have to check that in the door out there. The presumption of innocence means that we presume the best about people. We presume them to be blameless. That means when you're listening to these wires, if there are two possible explanations, you go with the one that is favorable to Charlie Adelson. That's what is consistent with the presumption of innocence. The state wants you to assume guilt. They want you to listen to these wires, and they want you to hear them in a certain way, through dirty lenses. They want you to look at them through the lens of everything being wrong and sinister. That is not what the law says you should do. If you presume this man innocent, which the law says you must do, which is what each and every one of you gave your word you would do during jury selection, then you look at these wires and you listen to them, assuming the best about Charlie Adelson. And when you have two explanations, both of them reasonable, you go with the one that presumes his innocence. That's how our system works.
Yeah. We let people off all the time, even if there's a whole stack of evidence, even if there's wiretap recordings where he's discussing the cover-up of the murder. We let people off in this country, especially white, privileged, spoilt, millionaire dentists.
Reasonable doubt, the judge has instructed you on. And he's told you that reasonable doubt is if you vacillate, if you go back and forth, that either explanation could be right. If you waver at all, that is living, breathing proof of reasonable doubt. And when you find yourself doing that, you must find Charlie Adelson not guilty. Because that is reasonable doubt and shows that the state did not meet its burden. Each and every one of you promised us during jury selection that you would have the courage, the fortitude, that the prosecution didn't meet its burden, something they have not come close to doing in this case. That you would have the courage to say the words, not guilty. And that's what we're asking you to do, because simply put, the evidence isn't there. The evidence is actually consistent with innocence. Now, because of the state's high burden of proof, they get another closing. And I don't get to speak again. So I need each and every one of you, when they're speaking, to think in your minds, what would Rashbaum say? What would the evidence?
He'd say that, ladies and gentlemen, is the definition of reasonable doubt, or puzzle pieces, or what was the other thing he likes to say? Hammer that piece in.
Evidence say? Remember, in our system, they don't get the last word. You do. I know you will take your jobs as jurors seriously. I know you will follow the law, the presumption of innocence, and the high burden of proof. If you do that, there is only one just verdict in this case. Count 1, not guilty. Count 2, not guilty. Count 3, not guilty. End this nightmare. Send him home. Thank you, Your Honor.
Oh. End this nightmare. Send him home. Send him home to South Dakota, to the Black Hills. Send him to the Black Hills of South Dakota. What is that song? Take me home to the Black Hills. Or is that North Dakota? I think that's North Dakota. Yeah, well, Rashbaum, you really closed that out for us, didn't you? How long is Georgia Kappelman's rebuttal? I think we might have time, but we won't be able to have our cool effect. And what about that poll? Where's that poll? Okay, 108 votes. We're done? Anyone want to throw in a last vote? How many people we got in the stream? Oh, look, there's 21 people can leave a vote. If you want to leave a vote, you have 1 minute. You have 1 minute, okay? While you're voting, we will search for Georgia Kappelman Rebuttal. Okay, we can do that. It's only 17 minutes. We're doing it, Tallahassee. We're doing it. Oh, let's do the poll. Let's do the poll. Okay, closing off the poll. So we got, where's the results? 74% say absolutely, and 25% declined. Okay, well, that's sounds like a yes to me. So we'll have our people contact her people and set up a date. Are you still here, Coffee? What did you get on your poll? Maybe we should crunch the numbers between polls, find the mean average. Share screen. Here we go. Okay, finally some class in tonight's stream. Does anyone else feel a little bit sick? We know Judge Everett does after that third sandwich. Just joking. I love Judge Everett. He's brilliant. He's class. He's calm. And he says cool things sometimes like, and if anybody in the gallery wants to make trouble, I have no problem having them bring out the handcuffs. But even when he's like being sort of a little bit threatening like that, he's super laid back and cool, you know? Just love Judge Everett. Oh, okay, C. Malone. I missed that. Oh, hey, coffee. Crime and coffee. 92. Okay, good. Good numbers. Good space numbers.
The defense has encouraged you to speculate in this case. The law does not allow that. I want to draw your attention to page 4 of your jury instructions. You'll have to pick them up. Page 4, middle of the page. Whenever the words reasonable doubt are used, you must consider the following. A reasonable doubt is not a mere possible doubt. Could it be? Not good enough. A speculative doubt. Speculation. We don't have that in the courtroom. We don't have that in the jury deliberation room. Imaginary or forced doubt. Not reasonable. Such a doubt must not influence you to return a verdict of not guilty if you have an abiding conviction of guilt. When you're back there and you're thinking about what Mr. Rashbaum would have said, he would have said puzzle pieces. First puzzle piece.
Yes, brilliant. You know, and she's doing this off, you know, she's got some, you know, Georgia is a classic example of someone who can rehearse, prep, but be there, present in the moment, use her ground to communicate with people, respond to the room. Fantastic. When you're back there thinking about what Mr. Rashbaum would have said, he would have said puzzle pieces. You know, and using her pauses like what Rashbaum was trying to do, Georgia can do it. I'm going to say it again.
Doubt must not influence you to return a verdict of not guilty if you have an abiding conviction of guilt. When you're back there and you're thinking about what Mr. Rashbaum would have said, he would have said puzzle pieces. First puzzle piece, the motive doesn't fit because he had a great life and he wouldn't have wanted to ruin his life. The problem with that argument is arrogance. This was not an issue for him because he wasn't going to get caught, because he was untouchable. They said relocation had no impact on Charlie Adelson, and that they proved Wendy's innocence in their questioning of her. Why are they working so hard to convince you Wendy is innocent? Does it matter? Y'all aren't being asked to decide anything about Wendy Adelson. There's nothing on that verdict form about Wendy Adelson. Did she corroborate the defense theory in this case? Wendy Adelson testified she didn't know anything about.
Yeah, Carrie, you caught that smirk. We can only see the side of her face, and not that much because she's got that beautiful hair covering most of it. But we didn't need to, because we can feel her. We can feel that smirk. It's fantastic. Best thing in law is Georgia Gappelman.
This supposed extortion of her brother, even though she moved there the day this happened. She didn't know in 14, she didn't know in 15, and she didn't know until it was announced in opening statements in this courtroom. I asked her about it, and she said, quote, "Well, I learned that someone made that argument. I don't know whether it's true or not. I don't know whether it's true or not." Even his own sister doesn't believe this load he's trying to say, y'all. Garcia wanted to kill the defendant so he wouldn't have done a hit on his behalf. And for that, they refer to the jet ski incident. They couldn't be in a conspiracy together because they hated each other. Well, that was part of the purpose of the walling off. The whole theory of this defense is that this defendant was so fearful of Sigfredo Garcia that he couldn't do the normal thing. He couldn't report this. But he continued to date Catherine Magbanua, Garcia's baby mama, after all this. After July 1, when they had this incident in the roadway. After the extortion. And even after that, he continues to send love notes to Sigfredo Garcia's woman. Even after the two of them get back together, he's still sending those.
I've just saved that into the list, Carrie. The best thing in law is Georgia Kappelman. Thank you.
Notes because he's so arrogant. Defense has told you that the defendant made the joke about the TV being cheaper than Hitman to people he hardly knew. Who are those people? The only person that testified in this courtroom that they had heard that joke was Wendy Adelson. Lacasse was asked. The lawyer said they said it, but and you guys have to refer to your notes and your own memories about what the evidence showed. But Lacasse was asked, did he say the joke at the dinner that y'all went to with Wendy and Garcia and Catherine Magbanua? I'm sorry, Wendy and Charlie and Catherine Magbanua. And he says, no. He does not recall that joke being made, and he thinks he would have recalled it had it been made. So there is no evidence in this trial that the defendant told that joke to people he hardly knew. If this was a murder for hire, it should have been paid in advance. Murder for hires always get paid in advance. That's what Pat Sanford said. That's not what he said. What Pat Sanford said is the arrests have been made close in time after the other murder for hire cases have worked. So there's no payment over time, gifts and stuff like that. Here, the investigation took years for the defendant to have the opportunity to try to keep her happy, to try to provide these gifts. Not only to her, but to Sigfredo Garcia. A gift card for a vacation on your extortion victim. Offered, not asked for, not demanded, offered. Offered to the extortionist. The defense talked about Catherine McDaniel. He hates when people lie, and she's a liar, and she lied to you. Well, Mr. Rashbaum's opinion about the witnesses, he told you which ones were good, which ones were lying, which ones were truthful, which ones were the best ones, which ones meant nothing. You guys decide that stuff. Okay? What we say is not evidence. Catherine McDaniel is a liar, though. I mean, she said other stuff, and now she's saying this. You guys have to consider that. That's a no-brainer. She has played every card she had, and this is the last stop for her. I agree with that. You guys agreed at jury selection that you would keep an open mind to that type of evidence, and that's all I ask you to do. Does it fit with the other evidence in the case? Because her last testimony sure didn't. Nobody has stronger feelings about Catherine McDaniel than the one sitting on this side. Would I ask you to base this defendant's freedom on the word of Catherine McDaniel? That's what they said I'm doing. And I would never do that. Never. Does it fit with the other evidence in the case? That's what I'm asking you to consider.
That's how you speak with conviction, Rashbaum, okay? When you're getting up there and you're saying, you heard it. The truth is, they have doubt. That's shit. Georgia knows how to do it.
And the one sitting on this side. Would I ask you to base this defendant's freedom on the word of Catherine McDaniel? That's what they said I'm doing. And I would never do that. Never.
I would never do that.
Does it fit with the other evidence in the case? That's what I'm asking you to consider. I didn't ask her about Dolce Vita. She verified the transcript. She said the words that scrolled when y'all watched it were the words that were said. The state has a doubt. What if we do? It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what the lawyers think. Doesn't matter. Do you have a doubt? Doesn't matter what I think. Doesn't matter what Mr. Rashbaum thinks. Regarding the defendant's demeanor in 2014, the defense said there was nobody that said anything about his demeanor. We only asked about, was he going crazy after the bump? And the answer was yes. That's not true. Ryan Fitzpatrick, who was his best friend in 2014, they didn't fall out until 2015, reported no change in his behavior. I said, was his behavior weird like that before the bump? No, not weird. That was his quote. He was normal until the bump, and then he was agitated, angry, freaked out, tense, stressed, whatever. Why didn't I play all of the calls? Did y'all get enough of the calls? It's trying to pick the parts that I think are important. They're in evidence. Feel free to listen to them. I do not want you to think I was trying to hide anything from you. Those are in evidence. And you will have an opportunity to review anything you want when you're back there with the recording equipment, headphones, and all that will be provided to you.
You see, if I was on the jury, I'd be like, okay, bailiff, we want to hear the wiretap of Charlie talking to June. You're either stupid or you're lying. You're not making me want to be with you. You told me I could go and cheat. You kissed me goodbye at the airport, told me you loved me, and told me to cheat because it was a different time zone and it didn't matter.
The defense says in calls A, B, and C, if you did a murder with someone, wouldn't it be the first thing on your mind to report? Well, maybe, But you're probably not like Charlie Adelson. You're probably not untouchable. Charlie Adelson asks the description on the wire, tell me about this guy, what's the timing, what was he wearing a disguise?
Hey, Harley. What's my favorite drink that I can buy at a local OXXO or whatever gasolinera there? Like a gas station. What's my favorite drink? Coffee or water. Water with gas, you know. There's a bottle of water called Agua Castello, and it's got the hard bubbles. And I like that one, but it has to be ice cold.
How do those questions, the defense is offering that as evidence that he was trying to deduce whether this blackmailer was the same as the prior blackmailer, but he never saw the prior blackmailer. He only saw Catherine Magbanua. So how does asking if the guy that approached his mother was wearing a disguise tend to prove?
Are you asking me about soft drinks? I really don't drink sugar-based drinks. Yeah, okay, sometimes I have a Coca-Cola, but not very much anymore. Or a Fanta, maybe. But it's not called Fanta here. It's called Sumo. And you have Laranja or Ananas. Pineapple or orange.
His innocence, or tend to prove his extortion theory. The guy that extorted him wasn't wearing a floppy hat and an Abe Lincoln beard. It was Sigfredo Garcia. It was Catherine Magbanua. Sigfredo Garcia, the first extortionist, didn't give him 48 hours to pay. He put him on a payment plan. He paid over years.
Sure, it's a different story in the States. If I'm in the States, I'll have an Arnold Palmer.
The defendant, hoping it's the police, and saying, quote, these people only know part of the story, or they think they know part of the story. The defense picks that out and says, oh, there he is talking about the first extortion. Or is he saying, why did they go to my mom instead of me? I'm the one that has a connection to you. I'm the one that, I think what he says is, I'm the one that has a relationship to you. Why didn't they come to the one that's involved? I mean, I'm not involved. That's what he says. Why didn't they come to the one that was involved in this? That's what he's trying to figure out about why they went to his mom and not him. Can't even read my own writing here. Oh, the PowerPoint with Wendy. Okay, the dots on the cell phone PowerPoints do not indicate where the person was. They indicate the cell tower that was servicing the person's phone at that time. So they're going to be somewhere around there.
It's serving, Georgia. They're not servicing the cell phone. That's like when you get your phone fixed. Okay, Georgia? It's the cell tower is serving the phone.
And the testimony was that Wendy's dot at 12:30 could be consistent. Like, you can't say where she was. Could be consistent with her being at Trescott. And we know she went to Trescott because Officer Brin observed her there. So I'm not desperately trying to pound a puzzle piece into y'all that Wendy made the call to say it's done. I don't know that. I can't prove that. If that information was conveyed, I don't know how it got conveyed. All right, Lacoste. They really need y'all to discount the testimony of Jeffrey Lacoste, right? Because of that statement that Wendy made to him just before the murder, that, all kidding aside, her brother really had looked into hiring a hitman to kill Dan Markel. And the defense says, you can't believe him, he's a jilted lover. And the evidence definitely showed that he was heartbroken over Wendy Adelson. But unfortunately for the defense, his brain was working just fine. And he testified about Charlie Adelson bragging in the hot tub about connections to a Cuban criminal element. The defense says, oh, they're not Cuban. That's not in evidence. They're of Hispanic descent, and he reported that to law enforcement that that's what Charlie said. The cops doesn't know if they're Cuban or something else. The cops said he bragged in the hot tub about having connections to a Cuban criminal element, and when the cops reported that information, the killers had not been identified, so he had no way of knowing if they were Cuban or of Hispanic descent. That's the importance of that. The cost says Wendy reported the celebration dinner, same thing. He comes in and tells the cops, look, she reported a celebration dinner to me where she vomited on the table. An inspection of the records proves there was a dinner and she did vomit. But they want you to believe that Lacoste is just lying about the celebration part. The Halloween text. They've asked you to look at their piece of evidence that talks about when.
Yeah, speaking of coffee and beverages, I mean, people are asking me about beverages. Yeah, coffee, man. Coffee and water primarily. But yeah, if anyone would like to support the channel, you can buy us a coffee, and we might actually buy a coffee with it. That'll be great. Coffee is very different here than in the States. There's nobody walking around with a giant cup of coffee. You have a very small cup. A very small cup. It's like a thimble.
Garcia learned about the existence of Charlie. That doesn't shed any light on what we're saying occurred on Halloween. On Halloween, Charlie.
There is a link in the description, guys, to buymeacoffee.com.
Defendant approached Catherine Magbanua about, do you know anyone that can rough him up? Okay, we're not alleging that she called Garcia that day and said, hey, can you come kill somebody? That was just the first inquiry into a plan that developed over time between Charles Adelson and Catherine Magbanua. All right, the defense mentioned Erica, and I'm almost done. Erica Johnson and her testimony, that didn't mean anything. Why did they call them? What about that recorded call between the defendant and Erica? Why does he tell her not to talk to the police? What about June Mchinda? Why does he tell her not to talk to the police? They don't know about the first layer of extortion. They can't reveal the first layer of extortion that will reveal the second layer of extortion that will expose.
Oh, I see what you're doing, Harley. Okay, you're doing the code thing. Okay. Yeah. It's late. I didn't catch on onto that until now. Yeah. But what do we need to code about? We could code about when the next fantastic Metrix show is going live, and you can look that up on the Charge Card app.
Expose him to the Latin kings? Why is he telling them not to talk to the police? Defendant's testimony. They say it's reasonable that he didn't go to the police with the truth because.
See you later, Kosher Style. Thanks for dropping by. Yeah, we're about closing it down for the night here. Couple more minutes, guys.
Had just seen what these people were capable of. They killed Dan Markel. He was in fear. Okay. Is that consistent with what you know about him?
Thank you so much, Mr. Pinto Peabody. I love the name, by the way. Mr. Pinto Peabody. It just rolls off the tongue. It's got rhythm. It's got style. Just like Judge Everett. Look at him up there. Isn't he great? No, thank you very much for the generous super sticker, Mr. Pinto Peabody. Very kind of you.
Back to the wires and everything you know about him. But also, why then not come forward with this story when the bad guys were arrested and the danger was eliminated? Why not come forward when Catherine Magbanua was arrested and he believed her to be innocent For 3 years, she awaited trial while this man thought she had nothing to do with it, according to him. Yet, he did not come forward with this story. Why not come forward after?
Yeah, that's nice, Brian Faircloth. You grind your own coffee beans, and that's very good. You know, coffee is very different here, man. People in Portugal, they wouldn't know what you guys are doing. They'd think it was a milkshake. There's no Starbucks here at all. I think there's a couple in Lisbon, but, you know, it doesn't exist here.
After her conviction, all the bad guys have been arrested and convicted. Danger eliminated. Come tell the truth. He doesn't do it. What about after his own arrest? He doesn't come forward then. We learn it in this courtroom in opening statement. Defense says the defendant freaked out in the car before Dolce Vita. Right? You have to watch Dolce again and see if you think he was freaking out or if he was in control of that situation. He was the one giving orders in that situation.
Hi, Michelle. What time zone are you on, Michelle?
Mm.
Did you catch that sneer on Georgia's face there? Check that out. You think she's like going to go into something else, and then she's like, "What's the point?" It was a shit argument that Dan put forth anyway.
You have to watch Dolce again and see if you think he was freaking out or if he was in control of that situation. He was the one giving orders in that situation.
Yeah.
Mm.
I just love her. I just love her mannerisms in the courtroom. She's fantastic.
Mm.
There's so much class, this woman. Fantastic.
I'll go back to the players in this case being smart. I mean, the defendant is smart. And they had over a year to carefully plan this
She has to say that. She doesn't really think that.
murder with the goal of not getting caught. And he's had 7 years to think about his defense in this case since the case first broke. And he does think he's untouchable. Don't guess. Don't assume. Look at the evidence. It will tell you everything you need to know. But don't let the way the defendant thought he would get away with this be the reason he gets away with it.
Yeah, young black economist. I'm straight black. Coffee. No sugar, no milk. Okay, sometimes I have the milky one. But not very often.
As long as you keep your mouth shut, you can get away with murder. Well, fortunately for us, the defendant didn't take his own advice. He did take the witness stand. He did offer statements, and you are able to assess his credibility as part of your determination of this case. Only one of us is putting on a magic show. It's up to y'all to figure out which one it is, right? We just hope and trust that you all have the common sense and the courage to see this case for what it is, to cut through all the stuff that the lawyers say and get to the meat of it and render a verdict that does justice for Dan Markel. And that is a verdict of guilty as charged. Thank you.
There's a Portuguese coffee lesson for you. Café show. A full coffee, but it's tiny. Yeah. Galão. Yes. Well, that was a fantastic closing rebuttal, Georgia. Thank you for that. And thank you all in the chat for having a wonderful evening here at True Crime Metrix. We went up against the presidential debate and we won. You know, everyone knew it was on, but they all came here to see Metrix. Yes. And Soap, how are you doing? Soap snores you to sleep. We will be releasing the CD, a 6-part special before Christmas. CD, it probably shouldn't be a CD anymore. Does anyone have a CD player? It will be an MP3, a download, an audiobook of Soap snoring for hours. I think it's going to be a hit. Yeah, we should probably get off this stream now, right, guys? What are we doing tomorrow? People have been talking about going over, it was really exciting to see Luis Rivera come into where's the Instagram now? Is it this one or this one? Where's his nice picture? Yeah, it was really nice to see Luis coming into Tallahassee today. The boys are back in town. And yeah. So people have been talking about going over his testimonies, and they're long. They're long in all three trials. So I was thinking about doing a mashup, going and getting some key bits, going and getting some of the questions that are the same for Luis in each trial so we can compare. Have a think about what kind of questions Daniel Rashbaum and Mr. Morris, the defense duo for Donna, the Donna defense duo, and we're calling them Scalp Rash, right, guys? Because, Mr. Morris has got that scalp, that big shiny bit of skin on the top of his head. And then, of course, we've got Rashbaum. So it only seems natural to call them as a pair Scalp Rash, which to me sounds like a sort of early 2000s new metal band. It sounds like Scalp Rash could open for a Limp Bizkit concert, right? Scalp Rash. Yeah, so that's what they're called. So maybe we'll try and predict some of the questions that Scalp Rash will ask Luis Rivera. Have a look at the state's angle, see what might be used, what might be dropped, and go over some Luis Rivera testimonies tomorrow, guys. How about that? That sounds like a good idea. Of course, I'm going to have to do a bunch of work in the day going through all the videos and editing it down. But that's my job, full-time. Yeah, signing off, guys. Don't forget, there are links in the description to Discord, which is a fantastic community that we've built. Available 24 hours a day, free, absolutely free. You just click the link and you're in. That's it. Yeah, good ways to support the channel, buymeacoffee.com, Patreon, YouTube memberships, and also our social networks are in there as well. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Yeah, and where's our channel page? Let's go to our channel page. No, not that one. Not that one. This one. To all you suckers out there, to all you suckers that haven't subscribed to the channel, look at what you're missing. Look at all our fantastic content. I mean, it just goes. I could scroll down this all day and never get to the bottom. It just goes on and on and on with fantastic Metrix material. Look at it. Look at it go. Chris Watts. I mean, we forget we're so wrapped up in the Adelson case at the moment with the anticipation of Donna's trial. But we don't just cover the Adelson case. Of course, we'll be doing Sarah Boone. We've got some Jodi Arias footage in there. We've got some Nicole Kessinger footage in there. Chris Watts. We've even got Grant Amato. Look, the full interrogation of Grant Amato. Chandler Halderson, that was very good. I want to revisit Chandler Halderson's interrogation, actually, because that was priceless. That was priceless. And a big one coming out soon, guys, is just as soon as we find a hot minute here, is the Russell Williams, Colonel Russell Williams, commander of CFB Trenton, the biggest Air Force base or military base in Canada. Ooh, he did some bad things. And he was interviewed by Detective Sergeant Jim Smith of the detective for the OPP, the Ontario Provincial Police. And it's widely regarded, and rightfully so, as the best example of interrogation tactics available on the public domain. So we'll be getting to that real soon, guys. But for now, we're going to say goodnight. We're going to say Be kind to each other. Don't be an Adelson. And enjoy the rest of your evening, whatever you're doing, whether you're driving home or going to bed or hitting the clubs. Mine's a Bloody Mary with a full stalk of celery and a little bit of Tabasco. Good night, all. True Crime Metrix out.